Chapter 281 Mortar. When Chungmu heard the noise and was about to go check it out, Wang Dong ran over. Boss, Li Huawang just called and said that there was an attack in the Care district last night, and several brothers were seriously injured. Chungmu was shocked when he heard the news. Are there any dead? I heard from Li Huawang that there were no dead here, but 2 people were sent to the hospital overnight last night. Why didn't you say it earlier? Leave a few people to guard the house, and the rest of you come with me. Chungmu was in a hurry to take people to the Care district, and suddenly remembered something. No, you don't have to guard the house. Just follow me. No need to think. What happened last night must have been done by Cobra. If a few people are left here, then if this is Cobra's trick to lure the tiger away from the mountain, the people who stay here may be in danger. Anyway, their liquor sales business in the Grand District has been transferred to the black market, and it doesn't matter if they don't do business for a day. Be careful on the road. Beware of any disturbance, and prevent the Cobra gang from ambushing on the road. Yes, boss. Since they were anxious to see what was going on, Chungmu and his team quickly arrived at the Care district. As soon as they arrived, they saw a house full of bullet holes. Li Huawang and his team had already moved their positions, except for a few people who were taking care of the wounded in the hospital. Everyone else ran to a house they had secretly bought before. No one else knew about this house except Chungmu's initial team. Chungmu and his team went to the hospital to see the injured first. Fortunately, these people were not as seriously injured as they had imagined. Although they were shot, they were out of danger after rescue. At present, these people are very conscious. The people in the hospital were a little scattered, but they immediately cheered up after seeing Chungmu. Chungmu asked about the general situation of the attack last night, and then left some money here. Arranged a few people to take care of the wounded here to prevent the Cobra gang from making a comeback, and then left in a hurry. He also wanted to go and see Li Huawang. Chungmu and his party soon arrived at the secret base in the Care district. This secret base was in a high-rise residential building. Before they entered the door, the patrol had already discovered them and hurried downstairs to greet them. Branches. Pushing open the old wooden door, Chungmu saw Li Huawang and others lying on the ground sleeping, holding guns in their arms. Hearing the sound of the door opening, everyone in the room was awakened. Chungmu looked at the people who were covered in dust and had some injuries, and he couldn't help but feel distressed. Damn Cobra gang! They kidnapped my people and hurt my brothers. If I don't kill all of these bastards, Chungmu would be a time traveler in vain. Suppressing the hatred in his heart, Chungmu said to everyone, I will ask someone to find a place with better conditions. From today on, we will sleep on mattresses. Sleeping on mattresses is a unique behavior between gangs. When gangs go to war, members of the gangs will look for a secret base. Then everyone will hide in this stronghold. For convenience, the gang will put mattresses in this stronghold for each member to rest. Over time, this behavior is called sleeping on mattresses. When a gang starts sleeping on mattresses, it means that there is a fierce battle to be fought. Boss, fortunately you arranged a group of people to keep watch every night. Otherwise, we would probably be left there today. Who are the people keeping watch? Give me the list, and give each person 1,000 yuan as a reward for discovering the enemy in time. Li Huawang, tell me what happened last night. Yes. At about 2 a.m. yesterday, 3 cars drove over from the street. When I saw the 3 cars, I felt something was wrong. So I woke up the other people in the room. When these damn cars drove in front of our house, they just pulled out their guns and opened fire. Fortunately, we were prepared, so there were no serious casualties. Boss, we killed a lot of them. A man next to him added, You performed very well last night. Beyond my expectation. Now you should take a good rest first, because there is still a fierce battle to fight later. Yes, boss. Wang Dong, you stay here to protect everyone, and there can be no mistakes. Okay, what about you? Boss? I have to go out for a while. You stay here. After Chungmu walked out of the secret base, he went directly to find Mozio. He wanted to get some large-scale lethal weapons from Mozio. The only powerful guns they have now are a few DP light machine guns. This thing is not enough to deter. This time, Chungmu must tear off a piece of meat from the Cobra gang, so that they will remember it for a long time and dare not have any ideas about the Han men in a short time. Otherwise, Chungmu and his men will be a little bit overwhelmed if they send people to attack every day. Cobra has been entangled in trivial matters recently. As long as the damage Changmu inflicts is big enough this time, they will probably choose to endure it temporarily. After arriving at Mozio's residence, Changmu said directly, I need large-scale lethal weapons. What can you get here? Mozio looked at Changmu. Is it because of the Cobra Gang? Yes. They attacked one of our bases last night. What? Are you injured? Several brothers were injured, but their lives are not in danger. Changmu told him about the situation last night. Mozio took a deep breath, and he was once again shocked by the young man in front of him. Faced with the sneak attack of the Cobra Gang, the members of the Hongmen were able to escape unscathed and even killed. This is when Changmu is not around. What kind of cohesion can achieve this effect? As a senior gang member, Mozio naturally knows the difficulty. Besides, it was Cobra who attacked them. Even if the Cobra Gang is the weakest among the 5 major gangs, they are still one of the 5 major gangs. Mozio looked at Changmu deeply. Follow me. The two drove to a secret warehouse that looked ordinary from the outside. This warehouse was under the Lucky Charlie gang. As soon as Mozio opened the door of the warehouse, a small arsenal appeared in front of Changmu. There were all kinds of guns and ammunition inside. Mozio led Changmu to the depths of the warehouse. When he reached the innermost part, Changmu saw a row of mortars of different models on the ground. Look at this. A vehicle-mounted mortar with a range of up to 3,000 meters. Use this to fire a shot at the Cobra Gang's nest, and it will definitely blow them up. Okay. This is it. How much is it? What money? Just pay it back to me after you use it. Chapter 282 Night Attack. Changmu saw Mozio like this, and he didn't bother to be polite with him. He directly put the mortar on the car with him. The mortar, which was not small in size, seemed a bit oppressive in Changmu's car. This thing had to be placed in the back of a small truck to work. Changmu asked Mozio for 10 more shells, put him in the car, and left with everyone. Changmu had to remember Mozio's kindness. Mortars are military supplies no matter what era they are in. The fact that Mozio lent him this thing shows that he regarded Changmu as a true friend. Otherwise, if something went wrong, Mozio would definitely not escape punishment given his status in the Lucky Charlie gang. After driving a distance outside with everyone, Changmu stopped the car, got out of the car and said to everyone, you go back first. I have something to do. Boss, what are you going to do? The Cobra Gang injured our brothers. We can't just let this go. Boss, are you going to charge directly into their lair? We'll go with you. Yes. We're not afraid of death. Am I that stupid? Burning into their lair alone? What are you going to do? Boss? I'm going to test the power of this mortar. You go back and guard the injured brothers. If you follow me, you'll be too conspicuous. If the other side sends out a lot of people, our few people won't be of much use. Well, let's go back first. Boss, you should come back early too. After sending everyone away, Changmu looked towards the Long Island district. The Long Island district is a satellite island near New York City. The scenery here is beautiful, because the island extends along the territory of New York City. It is called Long Island. At the same time, this is considered to be the old rich area of New York City. The Cobra Gang's lair is here. They have a large manor on Long Island. According to the intelligence, Old Cobra and his 3 sons have been in this manor recently. There are many bodyguards in the manor. And recently there are also a lot of private doctors who are keeping the dying Old Cobra alive. If you want to attack here by force, I am afraid there is not much hope. But now Changmu has a powerful mortar in his hand, which can attack at a distance. He didn't lie just now. He was really going to test the power of the mortar. But this test site is just the lair of the Cobra Gang. Changmu drove back to the secret base and changed to a small truck. He loaded the heavy mortar he had just obtained onto the small truck, and then covered it with a layer of black cloth and put some sundries in it to cover it up. Changmu found a black market in another block and sat in it to kill time. He stayed in the black market for a whole day, and he didn't leave the black market until 12 o'clock at night. Changmu drove towards Chandao. The Chandao block was far away from here. When Changmu arrived at the place, it was already 1 o'clock in the morning. He stopped far away from the Cobra Gang's lair. From a distance, there were still some lights on in the Cobra Gang's manor. Fortunately, the greenery on Long Island was very good, with trees everywhere. This provided Changmu with a convenient place to hide, and it would be more convenient for him to escape after firing the missiles. He drove the small truck behind a forest, and then lifted the black cloth covering the mortar. The military green mortar came into view. This thing was huge. If Chung Mu hadn't been physically strong, he wouldn't have been able to use it. The lights in Kabola Manor were originally for patrolling, to prevent smear attacks. As a result, they have become Chung Mu's best target. He adjusted the angle of the mortar, stuffed a shell into it, and fired directly in the direction of Kabola Manor. Before the first shell landed, Chung Mu fired the second one. 10 shells were fired by Chung Mu within a minute. A series of flames shot up into the sky in Kabola Manor, which caused at least dozens of casualties. Chung Mu looked through the telescope and found that the bodyguards in the manor were not too panicked. After the initial panic, everyone in the manor is now gathered in front of a villa. This villa is probably where Old Cobra lives. Chung Mu did not stay here for long. Although the number of people in the manor is not too exaggerated, they are definitely elite, and their combat effectiveness and adaptability are far beyond the ordinary gang members. If you stay here for too long, you may be found by the other side, and it will be difficult to run away at that time. Under the cover of the night, Chung Mu fled quickly. When they arrived at their secret base, it was already past 2 in the morning. No one in the room was asleep yet. Chung Mu went out alone today, which made them all worried. When the anxious people saw Chung Mu return safely, they immediately surrounded him. "Boss, where have you been? Why did you come back so late?" "I went to set off fireworks at the Cobra Gang's lair." The faces of the few people who followed Chung Mu to move the mortars immediately became strange. "Boss, did you use that thing you used this afternoon to set off fireworks for them?" "What else? Let's go to sleep first and see what they say tomorrow." Chung Mu sent away the people who were surrounding him and found a mattress to lie down on. He estimated that if nothing unexpected happened, the Cobra Gang would choose to cease fire this time, because this time Chung Mu directly attacked their hometown. The lives of their senior figures were threatened. Under such circumstances, they would never dare to fight to the death with the Hongmen again. This is like the Emperor, who was living a comfortable life at that time, clamoring for 100 million people to die in battle. As a result, an atomic bomb exploded nearby, and seeing that he continued to install it, he would probably die on the spot like those consumables. And then he immediately slid to his knees and surrendered. The mentality of these high-ranking officials of the Cobra Gang was the same. When gangs go to war, it doesn't matter how many people die. But when it comes to their own safety, it's a different matter. Besides, the Cobra Gang has been troubled by external and internal troubles recently, and can't spare too many hands to deal with the Hongmen. As for the situation that the Cobra Gang would fight back in a rage, Chung Mu was not worried at all. Old Cobra could do this. And Chung Mu had inquired about his 3 sons, with their nature of eating, drinking, gambling, and fighting for power and profit. They would not do such a thing even if they were given 10 times the courage. Now we just have to wait and see what the Cobra Gang will say. At noon the next day, after Chung Mu and others finished their meal, he was about to go out to return the borrowed mortar to Mozio. As a result, just as he was about to go out, he saw a member of the Hongmen who stayed in the black market coming to report that Mozio had something important to discuss with him. Chung Mu called Mozio to communicate, and then took a few people out to find him. Chapter 283 Peace Talks. When Chung Mu and his friends met Mozio, they knew what had happened. It turned out that after the Cobra Gang's lair was attacked last night, their first reaction was that it was done by the Hongmen. After all, apart from the other 5 major gangs, the only one who dared to attack them was the Hongmen. After their lives were threatened, their senior staff immediately began to inquire about Chung Mu. After learning that Chung Mu and Mozio of the Lucky Charlie gang had been getting close recently, they used all their connections to find Mozio and revealed their intention to negotiate. As soon as Mozio saw Chung Mu, he told him about this matter. The people from the Cobra Gang came to find him overnight last night. After all, the 10 missiles last night almost killed Old Cobra and scared his useless sons. The peace talks were also proposed by the 3 sons of Old Cobra. It is said that many people were killed by Chung Mu in the manor yesterday. The peace talks were also within Chung Mu's expectations. He responded to Mozio readily, but made a request. That is, if the Cobra Gang dares to do anything in the future, Chung Mu will not let them go. As long as the members of Hongmen are hurt, Chung Mu will blame the Cobra Gang. Mozio left with Chung Mu's words. At night, Mozio came to Chung Mu again and said that the Cobra Gang had agreed to Chung Mu's request. But if their people were hurt in the future, they would also blame the Hongmen. Chung Mu wanted to laugh when he heard this. It was like a gangster who could not do anything after being beaten up. So he could only temporarily make a harsh statement to save face. Chung Mu didn't want to keep fighting with the Cobra Gang, so he accepted their request for peace talks. But everyone knew that this was just temporary tolerance. It was hard to say whether the Cobra Gang would retaliate against the Hongmen after ending the internal struggle. They were likely to be torn apart because of this struggle. Anyway, when Chung Mu was free, he would definitely destroy this group of people. After the temporary truce was agreed, Chung Mu and others began to return to the base in batches. Of course, they would not believe the lies of the Cobra Gang. These bastards, although they are afraid of death, they still have the courage to let their subordinates go to attack and die. Not only that, but they are also very brave. Besides, they have money. As long as they are willing to pay, there are still people who will risk their lives. So Chung Mu and his team must pay more attention to all the movements around the base. Chung Mu has also sent people to find a new base these 2 days. After returning to the previous base, they packed up their things, packed up all the useful things in the room, and loaded them into the car. And then everyone started to walk towards the new base. After driving for 10 to 20 minutes, the Hongmen arrived at an open area. There were only a few buildings within a few hundred meters of this area. This layout was somewhat similar to the lair of the almighty Latin gang that Chung Mu and his men attacked that day. There were both advantages and disadvantages here. The disadvantage was that it was too open. If the people on duty at night were not strict enough, they could easily be smeared and wiped out. Moreover, without any shelter, they could easily become targets of others. But the advantage here was also that it was empty. As long as they are focused enough, any movement nearby will be visible to the night watchers. Once someone attacks, they can immediately respond. This is dialectics. There are always two sides to things. This place is a perfect place to give full play to people's subjective initiative. After arranging people to watch the night, Chung Mu went to find Mozio again. He bought a lot of small mortars. This thing is powerful and easy to carry. It can be regarded as a weapon for killing people, escaping, and guarding the house. After everything was arranged, the Hongmen group had their first good sleep in a while. Tonight, Chung Mu had the dream of being in the clouds again. This time the dream was a little unreal, but it did not make Chung Mu feel uncomfortable like before. Then he dreamed of Yunqi and Xia Luca again. He was drowsy in his sleep, and it was not until a beam of sunlight shone on his face that Chung Mu realized it was almost noon. He got up from the bed and walked into the living room. Some people went out to deal with gang matters. The group of people who kept watch yesterday had fallen asleep, and the others were doing their own things. Chung Mu looked at this group of 18 or 19-year-old children, and a strange emotion arose in his heart. Although he was not much older than these people, he had experienced a lot after all. In his opinion, these people were just children. He didn't know whether the time he was in was the real world or a fake one. With the ability of the game controller, it is not impossible to teleport himself through time and space to the real United States. If this is the case, after he completes the task and leaves this broken place, what should these people do? We can't just keep fighting and killing like this every day, right? It's time to consider paving the way for these kids. Gangs must develop. This is their base. But at the same time, they also have to think about how to whitewash themselves. The Great Depression is about to end. Chung Mu decided to take advantage of this period to complete more capital accumulation, and then acquire some high-quality industries. From the perspective of a time traveler, the most cost-effective business is to undertake projects. When the Great Depression ends, the entire United States will be building a lot. As long as we plan ahead now, we can easily make a lot of money in the future. However, these things cannot be rushed, and we need to take it step by step. In addition, although everyone in the current gang is very brave, they are still a little lacking in knowledge. After a while, Chung Mu will have to select some smart people in the gang to go to school, although they are not young anymore and have missed the best time to go to school. However, with the financial resources of Hongmen, it is not difficult to buy a few university degrees. Then let these people take the political route. By then, there will be many disciples of Hongmen, and people from all walks of life will help each other, which may even affect the situation in the entire United States. Thinking of this, Chung Mu's heart could not help but rise with a touch of fire. What he could not do in China may be done in the United States in the near future. But what he needs to do now is to think about how to destroy the Cobra Gang. Chung Mu thought of Logan Miller from the Money Gang who had come to him before. This person has basically been determined to be developed into an undercover agent. as long as he is asked to make a pledge of allegiance. Having a qualified undercover agent will save a lot of trouble. You have to know that if you want to kill a giant like the 5 major gangs, it will not be killed in a short time from the outside. You must break it from the inside, so that it will be a crushing force, and the entire gang will collapse. Chapter 284, Rebellion. Thinking of the internal attack, Chung Mu suddenly thought that he could try to start with the 3 sons of Old Cobra. Although Old Cobra was a bit of a beast, he was also quite capable, and his 3 sons were really both beasts and trash. A leader can be bad and inhumane, but he must not be stupid. Being bad will make others afraid of you, but being stupid is hopeless. And the sons of Old Cobra were both bad and stupid. If Chung Mu contacted one of the 3 and told him that he could help him kill the other 2, then this person might be tempted. Then with some tricks, the entire Cobra gang might be destroyed. This matter needs to be discussed with Mozio, who is the only one who can pass the message between the 2 sides. Chung Mu got in the car, took a few bodyguards, and went directly to Mozio's house. After seeing Mozio, Chung Mu went directly with him to a secret room, and then said straight to the point, "How much do you know about the 3 sons of Old Cobra?" When Mozio heard this, he sneered and made no secret of his contempt for them. "They are just 3 pieces of trash. Why are you asking about them? I want to see if I can use them to break up the power of the Cobra gang." "You are planning to?" "Yes. So I want to ask for your opinion. Which one do you think would be easier to target?" Mozio lit a cigarette, pondered for a moment, then sighed and said, "The 3 of them are all greedy people. For their own benefit, they can throw aside the love between father and son and brotherhood. However, if you really do this, then we will be in a situation of no return to the death with them. I have wanted to destroy them for a long time. The Cobra gang has stained a lot of our Chinese blood. Every time I think of this, I want to skin them alive." Of course, Mozio also knows what the Cobra gang is doing. Not only Chung Mu. Mozio also hates these people. It is possible that the 3 sons of Old Cobra will fight against each other for their own interests. But they may not believe you as an outsider. And after the fireworks you set off for them before, they may not dare to see you now. That's true. If Chung Mu really saw these people, he might not be able to help but shoot them directly. After a pause, Chung Mu continued, "I need your help on this. They sent someone to talk to you and me before. You should be able to contact them now." "No problem. I will try to contact them when I go back. Also, let me tell you something." Chung Mu glanced at Mozio, took a deep breath of the tea in his hand, and then continued, "After killing these people, I will take over the Cobra gang in its entirety. At that time, I will completely stop some of the activities of the Cobra gang, and I will retain the normal business. After dealing with these things, you and Luca will share the profits of the entire Cobra gang." When Mozio heard this, his breathing became a little faster. Although he lived a comfortable life, who would complain about having too much money? And sharing a share of the profits of the entire Cobra gang is not a small amount. Maybe if he succeeds in this deal, even his grandson won't have to work hard. Thinking of this, Mozio couldn't help but feel lucky that he had shown goodwill to Chung Mu. It's better to follow a good brother than to struggle for decades. People who come out to make a living are all for the sake of wealth and glory. Now that huge benefits are in front of them, why not give it a try? Mozio said goodbye to Chung Mu with fiery eyes. He wanted to do this quickly. Now Mozio wanted to destroy the Cobra gang earlier than Chung Mu. After killing them, there would be a lot of green knife music. After sending Mozio away, Chung Mu called another person over. "Go find Logan Miller and tell him I'm looking for him." Logan Miller was the insider of the money gang. After a while, the Hongmen brought Logan Miller to Chung Mu. After dismissing his subordinates, Chung Mu talked to him for half an hour before sending him away. Chung Mu told him to assassinate a middle and high-level member of the money gang as a token of his surrender. And Logan was obviously not a fool. Even if he surrendered, he would not show his strength until he saw the rabbit. Chung Mu didn't say much about this, just asked him to wait for a while, and he would understand everything. Chung Mu asked him to wait for the destruction of the Cobra gang, and then he would naturally work for Chung Mu wholeheartedly. Time flies by. During this period, Chung Mu is not only thinking about how to destroy the Cobra gang, but also working on whitewashing. He has recently contacted a university and military academy in New York City through political connections. He is preparing to send some of the Hongmen people there for further study. Moreover, Chung Mu has been trying to win people's hearts in the Care and Grande districts recently. He wants to use the votes of the vast masses to elect several district councilors. Recently, Mozio has also been working tirelessly to contact the Cobra Gang's insiders. He has been running back and forth between the Hongmen and the Cobra Gang several times, and has indeed made some progress. Recently, Mozio has already got in touch with the second son of the old Cobra. But this matter will take some time to settle. Today, Chung Mu has another counselor to meet. The one who helped Beverly become the deputy director. Recently, every district in New York City is facing a general election. And Chung Mu happens to have a large number of grassroots votes in his hands. Although I gave this guy money, and was sent away without even meeting him, he did get the job done. If I could take him in as a dog, I could save a lot of trouble. This man has been a counselor and has experience, which is definitely much better than supporting a new person. Chung Mu sat in the room for a while, and tasted 2 cups of fragrant tea. Soon, a member of the Hongmen came up to report. Boss, Counselor Tommy is here, and is waiting downstairs. Okay. Bring him up. Okay. I'll search him first. Chung Mu didn't deal with Counselor Tommy much before, and only met him a few times. The young man who just went down came up with a thin middle-aged man. When the middle-aged man saw Chung Mu, he greeted him with a big smile on his face. And seeing Chung Mu was like seeing his father. Master Chung, I'm so sorry. I've been thinking about taking some time to visit you, but I was so busy with official duties that I didn't have time. Please don't blame me. Chung Mu didn't take these words to heart. The top actors have become politicians, and the words of this group of people can never be trusted. No. Come on. Have some tea. The two chatted for a while, then got straight to the point, and began to discuss the issue of profit distribution. Chapter 285. What happened before was a misunderstanding. After talking with Counselor Tommy for an hour, Chung Mu finally sent him out of Hongmen. Just now, the two reached some exchange of interests. Chung Mu will use the large number of votes in his hands to help him secure his position as a district councilor, and Tommy will use his power to give Chung Mu almost all the engineering projects in the Grande district. At the same time, Tommy will also help Hongmen arrange 2 people to work in the government. The Hongmen people can be said to be eating public food. Chung Mu thought of the way Counselor Tommy was arrogant at first, and then respectful, and he wanted to laugh. These politicians, when they need help from you, they treat you better than your parents. But when they have used up your value, they kick you away. They might even stab you in the back. They smile when they meet, but stab you in the back. However, this person is useful to Chung Mu at present, so he still has to maintain the superficial relationship. And he will definitely replace him with his own people later. Not only the councilors of Grand Street, but also the entire New York, and even the entire United States, must be replaced by Hongmen people. Damn it. I have come here with so much difficulty, and I can still let a group of foreign devils ride on my head? Thinking of this, Chung Mu's heart could not help but rise with a touch of heat. At present, everything is developing in the direction he expected. After sending away Counselor Tommy, Chung Mu rarely relaxed. The current New York City is in a cold winter. It has been almost a year since he came here. At present, Hongmen can be regarded as a unique group below the 5 major gangs. Although Hongmen has a small number of people, they are all brave and fearless. Now other gangs basically avoid Hongmen people when they see them. Today, Chung Mu took a few people to take a bath. For safety reasons, Hongmen directly gave a dozen bills to the owner of the bathhouse, and booked the entire bathhouse. The bathhouse was filled with mist, and Chung Mu and the people of Hongmen were taking a bath and bragging. And by the way, they talked about which nightclub girls were hotter. Just as Chung Mu was concentrating on listening to everyone's discussion, a member of the Hongmen suddenly ran over from outside. Boss, Mozio said he has something urgent to talk to you about, and asked you to go over now. But he didn't say what it was. Mozio? Is it about the Cobra Gang? Chung Mu got up from the pool, changed his clothes, and returned to the base with a group of people. Mozio had been waiting here for a long time. The two walked into the house, and Mozio got straight to the point. Old Cobra's second son wants to see you tonight. Where? In the bank below the Capitol. No one dares to do anything here. Don't worry about safety. But we still have to be careful. The Congress is the highest legislative body in the United States. No gang dares to kill people here, because it is like shitting on the head of the US government. But for safety reasons, Chung Mu still needs to ask about the situation. Who did he bring? Just the 3 of us? You can bring bodyguards, but only the three of us can go in and talk. What time did he set? 8 o'clock tonight. Chung Mu looked at his watch. It was already past 6 o'clock, which meant they had to leave now. Go get the bulletproof vests. Chung Mu instructed the Hongmen member beside him. Yes. Soon. A pile of weapons and equipment were carried to the table in the living room. Chung Mu picked up a bulletproof vest and put it on himself, and handed another to Mozio. Are they ready to take action? I don't know. The guy said he would tell us everything when we meet. Okay. We still need to bring more people with us later to prevent being surrounded on the road. That's right. I have also arranged some people. Who knows if this kid will do something weird? After wearing bulletproof vests and guns with Mozio, a group of people started to head towards the capital. Fortunately, it is winter now, and wearing bulletproof vests under a thick cotton jacket is not too conspicuous. When the car was driving on the road, the Hongmen people paid special attention to the slightest movement on the road. Having suffered a loss before, I was afraid that Cobra's gang would do it again. Fortunately, the car was driven all the way to the parking lot of the capital, and no accidents occurred. Chung Mu and others ate something in a nearby restaurant first, and then sat in their seats and waited quietly. At about 7:50, Mozio patted Chung Mu and pointed outside the restaurant. Looking through the glass, Chung Mu saw 3 men in windbreakers walking towards the capital. The one in the middle was of medium build, in his 20s, with a sinister look, which made people feel uncomfortable at first glance. The 2 people next to him were carrying a box each. They were both burly and looked like bodyguards. After the middleman walked into the bank not far ahead, the 2 bodyguards stayed outside. Let's go! The one just now was the second son of old Cobra, Kim Cobra. Mozio straightened his clothes and said to Chung Mu. Chung Mu also stood up and walked out with Mozio. The 2 walked straight into the bank under the capital. As soon as they entered the door, a well-dressed man with gold-rimmed glasses came over. Gentlemen, please follow me. Mr. Cobra is in the VIP room. After walking for a while with the bank manager, Chung Mu and Mozio came to a luxuriously decorated room. The young man that Chung Mu saw outside just now was also sitting on the wide chair in the room. Jean Cobra saw the 2 people coming in and immediately stood up to greet them with a seemingly warm smile on his face. People from big families are still good at dealing with people, although this little bitch is a complete waste. With so many resources accumulated by the Cobra gang, he must have everything he needs. After the 3 exchanged a few pleasantries, the bank manager closed the door, and the 3 sat down and started to talk business. Kim Cobra nodded to Mozio first, then bent down to pick up the suitcase on the ground. Chung Mu's hand was on the gun. As long as Cobra made any rash move, he would draw his gun without hesitation. Fortunately, Chung Mu was still overthinking. Kim Cobra lifted the 2 boxes that were originally placed at his feet onto the table and opened them. Stacks of green banknotes appeared in front of Chung Mu and Mozio. Cobra pushed the box in front of the 2 men and spoke first. Chung, this 50,000 yuan is my compensation to Hongmen. The previous attack on you by the gang members was a complete misunderstanding. Chung Mu sneered in his heart. Misunderstanding? Misunderstanding. But in order to continue the plan, a fleeting greed still appeared on his face. Chung Mu did not take the cash box, but asked, I wonder what instructions Mr. Cobra has for me this time. Chapter 286 No Sense of Time. I wonder what Mr. Cobra wants me to do this time. As Chung Mu spoke, Jean Cobra's face darkened for a moment, and then he looked around the room with caution. There was no one else except the 3 of them. Then he said, I want to ask Master Chung to help me kill the 2 rubbish in our family. Sure enough, just as Chung Mu guessed, this guy came to him just to kill his 2 brothers. It is probably because old Cobra did too many bad things in his life, and the whole family is a scene of loving fathers and filial sons, and brothers and sisters are respectful to each other. Chung Mu remained calm and asked, Isn't it those 2 people who made Mr. Cobra so disgusted? Jean Cobra sneered and said with gritted teeth, It is my elder brother and good brother. I am afraid that they both want me to die sooner. Cobra opened another box, which was still full of banknotes. Master Chung, help me kill them too. I am willing to pay Hongmen 200,000 as a reward. Here is a deposit of 50,000 yuan. After the matter is completed, the other 150,000 will be presented as soon as possible. Chung Mu's expression remained unchanged, thinking that the Cobra gang was really rich and generous, and they paid 100,000 yuan for the first meeting. In order to play the whole trick, Chung Mu deliberately said, This job is not easy. I can't even contact your two brothers. So how can I assassinate them? And I have to pay more. He said this to confuse Cobra and make him think that he was just doing it for money. In fact, Chung Mu didn't care how much money Cobra gave. If I kill you all, the money will be mine if you don't return it. When Cobra heard that Chung Mu wanted to increase the money, his smile became even bigger, because in his opinion, Chung Mu's talk about money meant that the Hongmen gang was just that. And it also showed that Chung Mu really intended to help him do this. Master Chung, money is not a problem. I am willing to increase the reward to 300,000. And you don't have to worry. Both of them will go out tomorrow. I will tell you their whereabouts. How many people will they bring with them? I don't know the details. But there should be more than a dozen people. At about 6 o'clock tomorrow morning, my brother will go to Derrick Town to find someone. And my younger brother will do the same. Are you sure the information is accurate? If one of them doesn't show up at the place you said, it would alert the enemy. The information is absolutely accurate. As long as you kill them both, I will give you 300,000 immediately. How do I pay the balance? As long as you kill them tomorrow morning and still be here in the evening, I will come with cash. Okay. In that case, Mr. Cobra, I will go back and prepare. After the three of them exchanged a few hypocritical pleasantries, Chung Mu left with Mozio. After returning to the hotel, Chung Mu called the other members of the Hongmen inside, and a group of people drove back home. As soon as he arrived home, Chung Mu turned around and said to Mozio, "Old Cobra should be dead. Otherwise this kid wouldn't be so anxious. Do you think the information he just provided is true or false? I don't know. But it's okay to go and take a look. We will ambush there in advance." Okay. I'll call my people over now. We also have to be careful whether that kid has sent people to ambush there in advance. Of course. We'll search the area thoroughly when we get there. After dinner, the other members of the Hongmen packed up their weapons and equipment and went out in full force, in order to completely kill the two brothers of the Cobra gang. All the more than 100 members of the Hongmen were dispatched for this operation. They were divided into two groups, each with more than 50 people. Before setting off, Chung Mu specifically told the others that if anything went wrong, they should leave immediately. The two places Cobra mentioned were relatively remote, and it was already dark when Chung Mu and others arrived. The place where they were currently was the only way to the target of the assassination. They found an abandoned house nearby and used it as a temporary base to settle down. After hiding, Chung Mu and the Hongmen gang went to search the area. After confirming that there was no ambush nearby, some people were left to patrol, and the others went to bed early. At 4 o'clock the next morning, a group of Hongmen people woke up early. After eating some food prepared in advance, a group of people waited in the house. They waited until almost 6:30, but still no one was seen. Damn. This damn intelligence must have been wrong. Just as Chung Mu and others were preparing to retreat, a car sound suddenly came from the distance. Chung Mu picked up the telescope and looked, and 3 black Cadillac luxury cars appeared in his field of vision. It was the car model that Jean Cobra had told him in advance. Get ready. Yes. The group of people in the room held their guns tightly in their hands, quietly waiting for the 3 cars to approach. Fortunately, there was no trouble this time, and the 3 cars soon arrived in front of Chung Mu. Chung Mu waved his hand. Go! Dozens of guns immediately opened fire on the 3 cars. As the gunshots sounded, the vehicles tried to speed up and rush out at first, but after a few seconds, they crashed into an abandoned house on the side. After a round of bullets, the 3 cars were swept into sieves by dozens of guns, full of holes. The people inside couldn't be deader. This is the result of not having a sense of time. You are fucking late. After changing the bullets and observing the surroundings, Chung Mu and others got out of the car to check the bodies. He had the photos given by Jean Cobra in his hand, and he compared the photos one by one with the bodies full of holes in the car. After turning over several bodies, they finally found their target person in the back seat of the middle car, Gus Cobra. Chung Mu cut off his head and put it in a black body bag. A group of people dealt with the body and left the crime scene. When they returned home, they found that the other group led by Wang Dong had already returned. Chung Mu asked and found out that their assassination target had set out half an hour earlier. With this comparison, Chung Mu really wanted to take the head out of the body bag and kick it like a ball. Mozio also came over at this time, with an inexplicable smile on his face. What about the kid tonight? Kill him. Gene Cobra must die. Only when he dies can Chung Mu rule the Cobra gang. And based on Chung Mu's understanding of this man, he probably has already prepared an ambush, and is ready to attack Chung Mu. As someone who knows who really assassinated the Cobra brothers, he probably won't be able to sleep well unless Chung Mu and Mozio are dead. Chapter 287 Red in the Snow. If Gene Cobra killed Chung Mu and Mozio, not only would his murder of his own brother remain secret forever, but he would also save a sum of 200,000 yuan. Why not do it? Besides, with the nature of the Cobra family, killing the donkey after it has done its job is as natural to them as breathing. Chung Mu asked the Hongmen people to have a good rest first. He had decided to deal with Gene Cobra tonight. After a day of rest, everyone in Hongmen adjusted their condition to the best. When it was night, Chung Mu and others came to the bank in the capital as scheduled. He had made arrangements today, and set up an ambush on the way back to Gene Cobra. And there were also people from Hongmen on the way back to Long Island. As mentioned before, no one dared to take action near the capital, because if you act wild here, you will not only be regarded as an enemy by the government, but other colleagues will also be eager to kill you first. Therefore, in the capital, Cobra and Chung Mu did not have to worry about their own safety. Chung Mu left several personal bodyguards outside, and he went into the bank meeting room with Mozio. Cobra, who had been waiting inside, couldn't help but smile when he saw Chung Mu and the others coming in. From today on, he is the only king of the entire Cobra gang. From now on, Xianquan will make his own decisions, and everyone in the Cobra gang will submit to him. Chung Mu looked at Cobra, who couldn't control his joy, and sneered in his heart. It's a question whether this guy can survive tonight. Let him have some fun now. So many compatriots died at the hands of this group of people. Chung Mu wished he could stab him to death right now. After suppressing the anger in his heart, Chung Mu put on a smile on his face, and deliberately glanced at the suitcase next to Cobra. Seeing this, Cobra smiled even more. But what he was thinking in his heart was to get the money back with interest later. Who dared to attack my Cobra family before? Do you really think that my Cobra gang is so easy to bully? I chose to negotiate with you before. That was just because I was afraid. No. I did this for the sake of the overall situation. With you guys from China, it won't take long for you to become like other piglets. Chung Mu could naturally guess what this thing was thinking, but he didn't show any abnormality. Mr. Cobra, the matter has been completed. Where is the remaining money? Haha. The Hongmen is really efficient. Here is the remaining 250,000 yuan. You count it. No need. I still trust the Cobra family. If there is nothing else, we will leave first. Okay. I still have some things to deal with at home, so I won't see you off. Goodbye. After Chung Mu and Mozio walked out of the capital, they got into the car with their personal bodyguards and prepared to leave. When their car left the capital, two inconspicuous cars followed behind. These Hongmen members who were well prepared naturally did not show any unusual movements, as if the people following behind did not exist. After a while, Gene Cobra also left the place, surrounded by several sturdy bodyguards. Similarly, several people followed him. Although it was winter, the Capitol building area was the center of New York City, and there were many pedestrians and vehicles on the road, so the tails following them were not too conspicuous. After driving a distance, Chung Mu turned the car around and entered a small alley. The terrain of this alley had been studied by the Hongmen long ago, and many people were arranged to ambush here. After the vehicles turned into the alley in turn, the people following Chung Mu did not dare to lose him. They knew Gene Cobra's cruelty, especially now that he was the only one who had the final say in the entire family. If they lost Chung Mu, not only would they be severely punished, but their families might also be implicated. For this reason, the few people who had been following Chung Mu had no choice but to bite the bullet and enter the alley. When they entered the not-so-wide alley, they found that Chung Mu had long disappeared. They drove carefully in the alley, observing the surroundings vigilantly. But with a whistle, the pupils of several people in the car shrank instantly. And then, there was a sound of bullets pouring out of the alley. After getting rid of the tail, the young people of Hongmen felt a sense of revenge. Those dead compatriots, wait until we kill the beasts of the Cobra family, and then come to pay tribute to you. Chung Mu and others did not stay here for long. They learned the location of Gene Cobra through the walkie-talkie, and a group of people drove quickly to it. On a wide road with few people, Gene Cobra sat in the car. His face was abnormally flushed, all because he was too excited. He was already the patriarch of the Cobra family, and his two good brothers would never come out to compete with him for power again. The old immortal finally died, and no one could stop him. He thought of his eldest brother's wife again. She probably didn't know that her husband was dead. Right? This bitch. You dare to look down on me on weekdays by relying on your status as my sister-in-law. I'll let you have a good taste of my power when we go back later. Hee hee. I wonder if this bitch dares to look down on me in bed. Thinking of this, Gene Cobra couldn't help but breathe a little heavier. He urged the driver in front. Drive faster. Go back quickly. After driving on the wide road for a while, several more cars came to meet him. This was the bodyguard he arranged in advance. He was also afraid that Chung Mu would harm him after the transaction was completed. After driving for a while, the bodyguard who was still sitting in the passenger seat noticed something was wrong and turned to Cobra in the back and said, "It seems that there are 2 cars following us. Idiot! What do you do for a living? It took you so long to find out. Stop the car and send a few people to check it out." Yes, yes. As soon as Cobra's convoy stopped, a number of cars rushed out from the corner of the intersection not far ahead. It's the Hungman's car. Come and protect me. You bunch of rubbish. When the Cobra gang members drew their guns and surrounded Kim Cobra's car, ready to shoot at the Hongmen vehicles, they felt a huge fear. This fear made their hearts stop beating temporarily. If they were not leaning against the vehicle, they would have fallen to the ground. Before the group of people could beg for mercy, dozens of black guns were pointed at them. After a while, a bright red patch appeared on the snow. Chapter 288, Unifying the Cobra Gang. After dealing with all the people brought by the Cobra Gang, Chung Mu cut off the head of Kim Cobra in the same way. So many corpses must not be left on the road so openly. Although people often die in New York City, such a large number of corpses will definitely have an impact on the Hongmen if they are not handled properly. After loading the corpses into the car and taking them to the crematorium they have cooperated with for a long time for cremation, Chung Mu and his group rushed directly to Chongdao. After arriving at Chongdao, more than 100 people from the Hongmen directly rushed into the manor of the Kabola family. After dealing with the first few people who got in the way, Chung Mu gathered all the people in the Kabola manor in the manor. He threw the heads of the 3 Kabola brothers to the ground, and those who had originally had the intention to resist immediately became obedient. The gang leader is dead, and you are still risking your life? Isn't this crazy? As soon as Chung Mu spoke, the Kabola manor suddenly fell into a dead silence. Chung Mu didn't kill all the people in the manor, because there are not only gang members here, but also some servants, more or less adding up to about 100 or 200 people. If all these people were killed, the social impact would be too bad, and I'm afraid the relationship of Hongmen can't suppress such a thing. Chung Mu drove them out of Kabola manor directly, those evil gang members inside. After leaving the protection of Kabola gang, I believe that these people will die on the streets soon. Hongmen was very efficient, and before long, the group of people were driven out of the manor. This manor, which was easy to defend but difficult to attack, has now become a no man's land, and naturally became the new base of Hongmen. Starting tonight, the Kabola gang will also become a subordinate gang of Hongmen. By the next day, the news of the destruction of the Kabola gang had spread throughout New York City. If the reputation of Hongmen was only known in some neighborhoods before, now the reputation of Hongmen is known throughout New York City. During this period, the people of Hongmen finally slept peacefully. I have to say that the manor of the Cobra family is really good. It is large, green, and close to the sea. It is a good place for retirement. After washing up, Chung Mu sent a few more groups of people out. In addition to the 3 sons of Old Cobra, there are also some direct members of the Cobra gang, and these people cannot be let go. One is that they have stained the lives of many compatriots, and the other is to prevent these people from retaliating. So they must die. The members of the Cobra family are now helpless, and no one dares to help them. So the people sent by Chung Mu easily dealt with these people. After lunch, Chung Mu summoned the leaders of the gangs that were originally subordinate to the Cobra gang to the manor. All the leaders, seeing Chung Mu smiling, dared not even fart. They were afraid that they would do something wrong and let Chung Mu take action against them first. At present, Chung Mu did not intend to touch these people. The Cobra gang still has many industries under its control, and these people are needed to take care of them temporarily. However, people must be sent to watch over these people. After the direct descendants of the Hongmen have taken over the industries of the Cobra gang, these people can get out? Naturally, all the people in the Cobra Gang rushed over to show their loyalty. They said that they worked for the Cobra Gang under the coercion of the old Cobra. Now that the Cobra Gang has a new leader, they will naturally make a decision about the things they did before and those people in the future. Under the leadership of Chung Mu, the Cobra Gang will surely become bigger and stronger and embark on a new journey. Chung Mu also made an important speech on this. He said that as long as everyone is united, Hongmen will not treat anyone unfairly. After the leader finished speaking, everyone rushed to applaud. During the period, Chung Mu felt sorry for everyone's hands and asked everyone to stop for a while. But everyone said that being able to stand here and applaud today was a blessing from the previous life. In the end, everyone felt the care of the leader and stopped applauding. Chung Mu also raised a question to everyone at the right time. Is the name of the Cobra Gang a bit ugly? Does it need to change the name? This matter requires everyone to discuss actively, and those who should give opinions must speak up. After a short discussion, all the gang leaders present agreed with the question raised by Chung Mu. The leader is really capable. The name Cobra must be changed. Seeing the excited crowd, Chung Mu really couldn't refuse the public's opinion and agreed to the idea of changing the gang's name. Finally, the meeting ended successfully with everyone laughing and talking. After the meeting, Wang Dong ran to Chung Mu and said, "Boss, these lackeys from the Cobra Gang are really fence-sitters. It's okay. I'll replace them all in a while. This group of people must be replaced earlier. By the way, the guy from the Money Gang, Logan Miller, is here to see you again. Where is he? You were busy just now, so I took him to the reception room." Okay. Logan Miller has a high status in the Money Gang. If they can develop him into a loyal insider, it won't take long for them to take action against the Money Gang. Chung Mu took a short rest, washed his face, and walked into the reception room. Logan Miller had been waiting in the reception room for a long time. When he saw Chung Mu coming in, he immediately stood up to greet him. "Chung, I thought about the matter we have been discussing before. I am willing to serve Hongmen from now on." Chung Mu smiled when he heard this, thinking that you are a kid who won't release the eagle until you see the rabbit. I talked to you for so long before, but you still refuse to give in. Now that I just wiped out the Cobra Gang, you came here because you smelled the scent. But this behavior is understandable. Being an undercover agent also requires bargaining chips. The Hongmen wiped out the Cobra Gang, one of the 5 major gangs, overnight, which showed a shocking strength. And as long as you are loyal to the Hongmen, the treatment is very generous. So when Logan Miller heard the news, he immediately decided to come and join the Hongmen. Chung Mu looked at the respectful Logan Miller and smiled and said, "Mr. Logan, are you not going to wait and see anymore? Nowadays, everyone knows the strength of Hongmen. It is my honor to die for Mr. Chung. No matter what instructions Mr. Chung has, I will spare no effort to complete them. In that case, I will say it directly. Bring me 2 heads of middle and high-level people from the Money Gang, and then we will talk about the next thing. Mr. Logan, I can promise you one thing. After the matter is completed, you will definitely have a share of the Money Gang's assets, and the amount will not be less." Sitting in the seat, Logan Miller gritted his teeth and thought for a while, then said to Chung Mu, "Okay. Chapter 289, do it now." After sending Logan Miller away, Chung Mu began to consider taking action against the Money Gang. At present, the Hongmen is on par with the other 4 major gangs. Among the remaining 4 major gangs, some must have been strongly on guard against them. Others may think that this new gang is just lucky, and cannot compare with them in terms of foundation. The Money Gang is currently in a state of disunity, and as long as Chung Mu takes action now, he can definitely easily disintegrate them, because several of their elders directly took away most of the revenue of the Money Gang. The lower and middle levels of the gang, let alone eating meat, can't even drink soup. Even some of the unpopular middle levels of the Money Gang have problems with their own lives. Of course, this is only compared to people with the same position in other gangs. Compared to ordinary people, they still live a comfortable life. But since ancient times, it is not the lack of wealth that is worrying, but the inequality. Good man, we did all the work for them, and you guys took all the money? Logan Miller is not an exception. There are more than one person who wants to rebel in the Money Gang. If these people can be used well, the entire Money Gang can be taken down without bloodshed. Now it depends on the ability of Logan Miller. Judging from the time I have been in contact with him during this period of time, Logan Miller should be a very capable person. These can be observed through a person's conversation and behavior. And Chung Mu happens to be an expert in this area. Chung Mu temporarily put these thoughts out of his mind. He had just wiped out the Cobra gang. And he still had a lot of things to do. Although the people under Hong Min were already capable of doing these things. Chung Mu was a skilled man after all. And it would be much easier for him to do it. 2 days later, Logan Miller once again came to Hong Min's manor on Long Island. He was carrying a box in his hand and wanted to see Chung Mu. When Chung Mu saw the box in Logan Miller's hand, he knew that he had probably completed the task assigned by Chung Mu. When he opened the box, 2 heads rolled out as expected. Chung Mu had heard of these 2 people. One was called Morichi Gasio, and the other was Saint Dio. They were also in the position of middle-level leaders in the Money Gang. When are you going to take action against them? Morgan Miller said, after seeing Chung Mu nod to him. Chung Mu was anxious to destroy the Money Gang. And he was more anxious than Chung Mu. If what he did was exposed, he would probably not survive that night. If Chung Mu is discovered by the Money Gang that he wants to take action. With the current prestige and strength of the Hong Min, the Money Gang may not be able to defeat the Hong Min. Tell me about the situation of the elders of the Money Gang first. Although Chung Mu knows something about the Money Gang, the information he gets is definitely not as accurate as their internal employees. The Money Gang is currently mainly controlled by 4 elders. These 4 elders also took away most of the profits of the Money Gang. In fact, the Money Gang was not like this originally. Otherwise, it would not have developed into one of the 5 major gangs in New York City. Originally, the Money Gang had a leader who had the final say. As a result, the leader of the Money Gang died unexpectedly. After the leader died, the Money Gang went through a series of fierce power struggles. Finally, a few people defeated their opponents and succeeded in taking over. When they first led the Money Gang, they were still qualified leaders. After a period of time, everyone only thought about how to make money, and no longer cared about the lives of the lower-level members in the gang. For the matter of making money, as long as one person sets a precedent, all those who can make money will make a lot of money, as if Pandora's box has been opened. But the foundation of the Money Gang is here. A centipede is dead but still alive. Although the gang has complaints from the top leaders down, no one wants to rebel for a while, because no one has taken the lead. Through Chung Mu's observation of the Money Gang during this period, as long as there is someone inside to take the lead and reform, or someone outside to kill those senior leaders, then the Money Gang will probably change its name immediately. After explaining what to do to everyone in the manor, Chung Mu went to a place with a few bodyguards. The place they were going to was a construction site that had not yet been developed. Chung Mu used the money of the Cobra Gang to buy several plots of land. At the same time, he recently corrupted some civil servants. After the Great Depression, the value of these plots of land will skyrocket. And then, they can make a lot of money. As a time traveler, it is too easy for Chung Mu to make money. Just taking advantage of the information gap can make a huge fortune. However, his main task is to unify the 5 major gangs. And he has always been focused on this. Now, the main task of unifying the 5 major gangs has been put on the right track. Chung Mu also considered leaving something for them after he left this world. So recently he has been buying up some industries and stocks. Another half a month has passed, and the elite troops of the Hong Min are packing up. Just now, Logan Miller sent a message. Today, an elder of the Jinjiang gang is going out for a trip, and he only brought 2 personal bodyguards. As soon as Logan Miller received the news, he immediately ran over to inform Chung Mu. Chung Mu certainly would not miss such a good opportunity. But to be on the safe side, he also brought Logan Miller with him. And they went to carry out this mission together. If the tip-off was wrong, Chung Mu would kill the traitor first. Chung Mu brought more than 10 people and drove 3 cars in total. The weather today was very good. Although it was still winter, the sun was shining brightly. Following the tip-off provided by Logan Miller, everyone arrived at the door of a luxury hotel early. This hotel is owned by the Money Gang. Logan Miller also learned from the person in charge of this hotel that the gang elders of the Money Gang would come. Good man. This Money Gang can be regarded as a traitor. After waiting near the hotel for about half an hour, a luxurious vintage car drove over from a distance. Here he is. After seeing the car, Logan Miller, who was sitting in the car, immediately turned his head and whispered to Chung Mu, "When are you going to take action? Now? Now? In front of so many people?" "Yes. When it comes to assassination, the simpler and more brutal, the better. The most primitive method can often play the greatest role. As for what Logan Miller said about being in front of so many people, Chung Moo was not worried. In this era, there were no cameras, and it would be difficult for the police to find out if they just ran away after killing. Before Logan Miller could say more, the Hongmen people received Chung Moo's order and drove directly towards the old car. Chapter 290 Assassination. After receiving Chung Moo's order, the Hongmen people drove their cars directly towards the luxury old car. Several cars quickly approached the old car, and the old man inside saw Logan Miller's face through the glass. Before he could be surprised, several black gun muzzles were pointed directly at the car. The gunshots, screams, and the panicked noise of the crowd running away mixed together to form a not-so-beautiful symphony. After finishing the work, Chung Moo and others quickly fled the scene of the crime. When they ran out not far, a group of armed security guards rushed out of the hotel. After confirming that no one chased out, Logan Miller breathed a sigh of relief. He sat in the car, his face flushed, obviously a little excited. After killing the gang elders, they must need more people to handle the gang's daily affairs. Hongmen does not have so many people to deal with these things. And as the first person to get in touch with Hongmen, Chung Moo will definitely let him take responsibility when the time comes. When he thought of the taste of power and money, Logan Miller felt that his body couldn't stop shaking. He took a deep breath, tried to calm himself down, and said to Chung Moo beside him respectfully, "Chung, when are we going to take action against the remaining few people?" Now they have killed an elder of the money gang. The news will definitely reach other people's ears soon. By then, the other elders of the money gang will know the news. They will definitely be on guard. Although these old guys have bad character, they have experience after all. If we wait until they are on guard before we take action, the difficulty will increase a lot. So we should take advantage of this opportunity and kill all these people in one go. When Logan Miller heard that Chung Moo was going to deal with the remaining elders of the money gang, he was stunned at first. And then, he couldn't control his excitement. With the ability of the Hongmen, it is not impossible to kill all the people in the money gang within a day, as long as Chung Moo wants. Then with his order, the elite soldiers of Hongmen will definitely complete this impossible task in the eyes of others. If all the elders of the Jinxian gang die today, won't they be able to take over tomorrow? Logan Miller could no longer suppress his excitement, and said to Chung Moo with a trembling voice, Boss, which one should we start with? The strongest one. Do you know the way?" I know. Half an hour later, Chung Moo and his group appeared near a luxurious villa. Chung Moo, sitting in the car, was holding a telescope and hiding behind the shelter of a house to look at the villa. In front of the large swimming pool, an old man with sagging skin was tremblingly stroking the two tall playthings in front of him. Damn, this old man. He can hardly walk steadily. But he still has so much free time. Ignoring this old man who can only watch but not do anything, Chung Moo focused on spying on the security system in the villa. There are currently 8 bodyguards that can be seen in the open. However, these 8 people are obviously not vigilant enough. Chung Moo hid in the dark and watched them for a while. But these people didn't react at all. It was probably because they had lived a life of luxury for a long time that made them relax their vigilance. After all, in their opinion, who would dare to attack their money gang, let alone anything else? With the money in their hands, they could kill people by throwing it out. "Bring a gun," Chung Moo whispered to the Hongmen member next to him. A person next to him handed over a rifle that was more than 1 meter long. This was an old-fashioned rifle with a wooden body and a telescope on the barrel. This kind of gun needs to pull the bolt every time it fires, which is not very convenient to use. However, it is still very useful for assassination or hunting. In this era, the accuracy and range of this rifle are quite good, especially in terms of accuracy. You can't guess where the bullets of many guns will fly after they are fired these days. Chung Moo wrapped a layer of cloth around the gun body, placed it on the window, and aimed at the old man's head. I don't know if it was a last-ditch effort before death or some drug he took, but the old man was still struggling to try to achieve a great harmony in life. Unfortunately, Chung Moo will not give him this chance again. Bang! After a gunshot, the old man's head exploded, and red and white filth was scattered all over the floor. Everyone by the swimming pool was stunned for a few seconds. First, 2 women covered their faces and screamed before fainting. Then the bodyguards in the villa hid everywhere in panic. These people who only cared about escaping for their own lives did not look like bodyguards. But the people left by the old man must be just some flatterers. People who are really capable probably can't stand this old bitch. Let's go! Ignoring the desolation in the villa, Chung Mu snapped his fingers, and the people hiding in the room followed him out. Damn. What the hell? The strongest one? Go and deal with the remaining ones quickly so that you can go home and sleep. Logan Miller was also a little embarrassed when he saw this scene. Before the assassination, he was still worried that there would be a fierce battle. But I didn't expect the Hongmen to be so efficient. It seems that following the right boss is equivalent to saving 20 years of struggle. Logan Miller couldn't help but feel happy again for his wise decision to contact Hongmen in advance. In the following period of time, Chung Mu and others ran around in Niyuyuk City. Soon all the elders of the money gang were killed. After dealing with everyone, Chung Mu returned to the manor and said to Logan Miller, "Call all the middle-level members of the money gang to come here to see me." "Yes, I'll go now." Chung Mu looked at his watch. It was already past 6 in the evening. It happened that he had been busy all day, and it was time to eat. After the servants prepared a sumptuous dinner, and everyone finished eating, Logan Miller also brought some middle-level members of the money gang to the Hongmen Manor. On the way, Logan Miller had already told these people what happened today. When everyone heard that the elders of the money gang were killed, there was silence at first. Then a few of the braver ones laughed out loud on the spot. And this laughter was like a chain reaction. And soon everyone laughed out loud. This can't be blamed on them. Several elders of the money gang took more than 90% of the gang's income for themselves. Some of them had high expenses, and even had to borrow money to get by. It was rare for a boss to be in this position. So when these people were brought to Hongmen, no one had hatred. But everyone was even a little grateful to Chung Mu. When Chung Mu announced the new money-sharing policy, everyone cheered from the bottom of their hearts. Where can you find such a good boss? Chapter 291 Mission completed. After Chung Mu finished reading the new policy of the money gang, everyone present felt an unstoppable excitement in their hearts. Because this also means that they will get a lot of money. Although the man in front of them, who looked young and a little handsome, just killed several elders of their money gang. But those people deserve to die. Who made them swallow all the money and not share it with us? Everyone returned to their homes with excitement. Now they just want to find an opportunity to show their abilities in front of Chung Mu. As for the previous boss, who are you sending to? How much money are you paying? It is still Logan Miller, who has foresight, and has not been able to get the support of Hongmen in advance. But the boss has just been changed recently. As long as we work hard, we will definitely get the attention of the boss. Sitting on the luxurious sofa, Chung Mu recalled the expressions of the people in the money gang just now. And he couldn't help but feel a little funny. He remembered a sentence from his previous life. Monthly salary of 100,000. The direction of the company is the meaning of my life. Monthly salary of 3,000. The boss is your father. After chatting with everyone in Hongmen, Chung Mu relaxed himself. If things continue to develop like this, it won't be long before he can return to the game. Thinking of Yunchi and Xia Luca, he felt a touch of heat in his heart. Time passed quickly. And during this period, Chung Mu's 3 skills were all upgraded to the maximum level. The loyalty of the Hongmen has been raised to 90%. The loyalty of the other 2 gangs has also increased. 3 months have passed in a flash. During this time, Chung Mu has successively unified the Guns and Roses gang and the Lucky Charlie gang. Currently, 4 of the 5 major gangs are in his hands. And the name of the Hongmen has spread throughout the Niyuyuk City. Only one mafia is left. The mafia members are too cruel. And they are all murderers without blinking an eye. However, the Hongmen's momentum has been too strong recently, and they are a little overwhelmed. Today, they sent a senior official to negotiate. After Chung Mu waited for a while, in the heavily guarded manner, a middle-aged man in a suit and tie, who looked quite imposing, was brought to him. The man who came was a senior official of the mafia, and also the brother of the mafia boss. Chung Mu stood up to greet him, and then the two entered a secret room. After chatting with this person for 2 hours, Chung Mu had dinner with him again. After dinner, they went back to the secret room and continued talking for an hour. Chung Mu smiled and sent the high-ranking member of the mafia away. They had already agreed that the mafia was willing to become a subordinate gang of Hongmen. But the interests of most of their core members had to be guaranteed. This was nothing to Chung Mu. After all, once they joined Hongmen, they were members of Hongmen. If they were given enough benefits, they would naturally work for Hongmen wholeheartedly. Since then, all the 5 major gangs in Niyuyuk City have been under the control of Hongmen. Not only the underworld, But also many politicians in New York City are controlled by hongmen. It can be said that the hongmen in New York City is now all-powerful. Almost everyone in New York City knows the name of hongmen. After another 2 or 3 months, when the loyalty of the 5 major gangs has been raised to a certain level, Chung-Moo received a prompt from the game. The dungeon mission has been completed and will return to the survivor game in 24 hours. Seeing this reminder, Chung-Moo breathed a sigh of relief. Finally he could go back. Although he had a good time here, he couldn't help missing Yunchi and Xia when he thought of them. After taking a few deep breaths and calming down his emotions, Chung-Moo called the young man who had worked with him at the beginning. He had previously told these people that he would leave New York City soon, and asked them to prepare to take over hongmen in advance. Otherwise, if he left suddenly, hongmen would be in chaos. Looking at the people in the room, who were gradually becoming mature, Chung-Moo felt a little emotional. I will leave here tomorrow. Although Chung-Moo had told them about this a long time ago, when it really happened, everyone was still unwilling to accept this fact. For a moment, no one in the room spoke. After a long silence, Wang Dong took the lead and said, "Boss, where are you going?" "To a very far place. Maybe I will never come back. Or maybe I will come back to see you." If he could defeat the person behind the game, he might be able to control the entire game. Then he could travel back to see them. "Boss, you..." Chung-Moo waved his hand and interrupted everyone. Now is not the time to discuss these romantic affairs. He wants to explain to everyone the development of hongmen after he leaves. Through observation during this period of time, Chung-Moo found that this world is a real world. That is to say, even if Chung-Moo left here, the lives of other people here would continue. It was not easy to lead his compatriots to this point today, and everything was hard won. After such a long period of training, these people of hongmen have also become capable of being independent. Chung-Moo felt relieved to leave hongmen to them. A group of people chatted in the room from the evening to the next morning. They talked a lot. And in the end, even Chung-Moo couldn't remember what he said. Just felt a huge drowsiness coming. Everyone was so sleepy that they fell asleep in the room. When they woke up, it was already noon. In order to maintain the stability of hongmen, Chung-Moo called all the people of hongmen, including the leaders of the 5 major gangs, to the manor. In the manor, Chung-Moo announced to everyone that he would be away for a long time, and all the affairs of hongmen would be handled by a special person. Originally, the people who came to the manor came with excitement, and meeting Chung-Moo was an opportunity they had been looking forward to. But now Chung-Moo said he was leaving, and the whole manor became quiet again, with a trace of sadness on everyone's face. After all, Chung-Moo was the totem of hongmen for them, and his departure would definitely have a great impact on morale. And Chung-Moo seemed to have expected things to turn out like this. He didn't say much, and walked to everyone's side, looking at them with encouraging eyes. Everyone didn't say anything, but looking at Chung-Moo's eyes, they felt something more in their hearts. After saying goodbye to everyone, Chung-Moo walked into a car without taking anything. He took a last look at everyone present, and then drove away from this luxurious manor. Chapter 292 Return. Chung-Moo drove his car on the country road in New York City. In his sea of consciousness, there was a countdown for his return to the survivor game. In less than an hour, he would be back in the game. It would be a lie for Chung-Moo to say he was not excited now, although he didn't know how much time had passed in the game. Chung-Moo had spent 2 or 3 years here. Chung-Moo drove the car to a place and stopped. This is a wild beach in New York City, with no one around. Chung-Moo lit a cigarette, leaned on the hood of the car, and watched the red sun about to set on the beach. The countdown in his sea of consciousness also rolled to the last second. He felt dizzy, and when he woke up again, Chung-Moo found himself back in the bed of the Mud King. There were still 2 people talking in the living room outside. Chung-Moo knew that the voices were from Yunchi and Xia. Feeling the tyrannical power of his punch that could blow up a car, Chung-Moo felt a burst of joy in his heart. My Chung-Moo is finally back. He jumped up from the bed, then opened the door and rushed into the living room. Yun-Chi and Xiao Lu-Cha were startled by him at first. Then, they immediately rushed over and hugged Chung-Moo. The 2 of them hung on Chung-Moo tightly, one on the left and one on the right, before Chung-Moo could feel the warmth in his arms. The sound of a door opening came from the bathroom in the car. There were only 3 of them in the car. Where could there be anyone else? Chung-Moo immediately became alert. But just as he was about to take action, a girl with colorfully dyed hair, who looked about 18 or 19 years old, walked out from behind the door. Seeing Chungmu hugging Yunqi and little green tea, she was not panicked, but said to Chungmu, "You are back." For a moment, the air was directly awkward. It was little green tea who first reacted from the excitement of seeing Chungmu and explained to Chungmu, "Brother, she is my cousin." After Xiao Lucha's explanation, Chungmu finally understood the reason for the incident. After Chungmu traveled to the dungeon, Yunqi and Xiao Lucha went to look for supplies. As a result, on the way to find supplies, they happened to meet this person's car. Yunqi and Xiao Lucha were certainly not to be trifled with. When they saw the car in front, they immediately launched an attack. After the opponent's car was almost scrapped, a person rolled out of the car. Yunqi was ready to kill this person with a shot without saying a word. But Xiao Lucha looked closely and thought, "Oh, isn't this my cousin Su Qingma?" She hurriedly stopped Yunqi, picked up the telescope and took a closer look, only to find that it was true. So the two hurried to carry the unconscious cousin to the car. After she woke up, they chatted and found out. It turned out that the cousin also traveled here because of an accident. Xiao Lucha and her cousin had a deep relationship since childhood, and they didn't expect to meet again after coming here. Chungmu didn't say anything after listening to the origin of this seemingly rebellious girl. People have been staying here for several days, and there is one more person to take care of them. Go cook. I'm starving. Okay, brother. I'll go now. By the way, what day is it now? Today is the 56th day. Damn. I've been in the dungeon for 2 years, but 7 days have passed in the game. The next update will come at 12 o'clock tonight. Chungmu left the three of them in the kitchen to cook, and went to the cab alone. This is a familiar feeling. By the way, where are Wankai and Xiaohei? Why didn't I see these two dogs just now? He started looking for Wankai and Xiaohei in the Mud King again, and finally found Wankai and Xiaohei sleeping on the floor in the room he had just traveled back to. He was so excited when he came back just now that he ignored them. After waking them up, Wankai and Xiaohei were startled at first, then immediately threw Chungmu to the ground and licked his face with their tongues. Fortunately, Wankai was more particular and didn't have the habit of eating shit, and Xiaohei was also more clean. After not seeing each other for such a long time, Chungmu let them run wild. After Xiaohei and Wankai licked enough, Chungmu got up and went to the bathroom to wash his face, then walked outside the Mud King to feel the vast desert and the scorching sun. Although the scenery here is not as good as in the dungeon, Chungmu has long been accustomed to it. After coming back, I still feel comfortable. He leaned on the hot Mud King and lit a cigarette. Before the cigarette was burned out, Xiao Lucha leaned on the window and called him to eat. Chungmu put out his cigarette, sat down at the table, and found that his cousin was staring at him. Ahem. Although I know I am handsome, there is no need to keep staring at me like this. Right? Chungmu did not intend to meet her gaze, and was about to bury his head in his meal when she suddenly smiled at him and said, "Godfather? Fuck. It's you. Kid." Chungmu immediately remembered the person he had chatted with some time ago. Damn. This is too coincidental. Chungmu was so shocked by her godfather that he almost lost his rice bowl. But after all, he was a man who had seen big scenes, so he was not too flustered. He finished his meal without blushing, and then returned to his room. By the way, her smile just now was really beautiful. Chungmu was also tickled by her smile. Why haven't Yunqi and Xiaoluka come in yet? How long has it been? They have finished their meal, and they are still chatting outside. You know, for the two of them, it has only been less than 7 days. But for Chungmu, it has been 2 full years. In the past 2 years, Chungmu has been keeping himself pure for Yunqi and Xiaoluka. 2 years. Do you know how I have been doing in the past 2 years? Fortunately, Yunqi and Xiaoluka did not let Chungmu wait too long. After arranging his cousin in a room with good sound insulation, Yunqi and Xiaoluka hurried to the room with red faces. It is said that a short separation is better than a new marriage. Chungmu felt that this sentence was indeed true. After the incident, Yunqi and Xiaoluka talked to him a lot, but he did not say much. In the final analysis, it was because of the different time. Although the time in the game is different from that in the dungeon, Chungmu has actually lived for more than 2 years. More than 2 years is enough for an idle trainee to debut. Chungmu's longing for his girlfriend naturally calmed down in these 2 years. So at the beginning, Yunchi and Xyluka suspected that he had someone else outside. Fortunately, after checking, Yunchi and Xyluka were quite satisfied. Time passed quickly, and it was evening. Chungmu looked at the huge, fiery red sun in the desert, smoked a cigarette, and quietly waited for the next update of the game. Chapter 293 System Tasks. At night, Chungmu, who was lying in bed, received an update notification from the game. Everyone in the game also received this notification. Game version changes are as follows. Change 1. Higher quality supplies and blueprints will appear in the supply box. Change 2. More powerful creatures will also appear in the game, and these creatures will actively attack players. Change 3. All remaining players in the Survivor game will receive 10 attribute points again. There was nothing special about the changes this time, and no new maps were updated. As the game was updated, the system sent tasks again. System task. Find the third piece of Xuanwu heart. Note, the third piece of Xuanwu heart exists in the vast ocean. Chungmu was very happy that the system could send tasks. But the system's tasks were like this, and Chungmu was not happy. The ocean area in the game map is so large. It is not easy to find such a small piece of Xuanwu heart in it. But after thinking about it, Chungmu felt that it was nothing. After all, 2 years had passed in the dungeon in a blink of an eye, and it was nothing to find a stone in the game. After he made up his mind, he closed his eyes and fell asleep. Chungmu slept soundly with Yunchi and Xyluka. But it was different for Xyluka's cousin in the next room. Although the sound insulation effect on the Mud King was good, it could not completely isolate those sounds. When Xyluka woke up the next day, she saw that her cousin had dark circles under her eyes, and she ran over to ask what happened and whether she didn't sleep well. After getting up, Chungmu didn't pay attention to these things. He had a simple breakfast and drove the Mud King towards the sea. After entering the sea, the Mud King instantly turned into an ironclad ship several dozen meters long. Chungmu took out the 2 Xuanwu hearts he had found before from the storage box. He stood at the bow, holding the Xuanwu heart in his hand. The Xuanwu heart, like before, emitted a faint light. This indicated that the third Xuanwu heart was very far away from Chungmu's current location. There is no other way. Just slowly search. Anyway, there is no big storm on the sea at present. And considering the size of Mud King, there is no need to worry too much about ordinary wind and waves. After enjoying the sea breeze on the deck, Chungmu returned to the cabin. Bored, he opened the chat channel of the game to see what the silly netizens were talking about recently. Brothers, 9527 hasn't spoken for a week. Did he die in the dungeon? It's possible. After all, I haven't seen the real person for so long. I also suspect that he is dead. What do you suspect of Nima? I suspect Nima is dead. +1. +1. +1. +1. I haven't appeared for a few days, and this group of people think I'm dead? It seems that I have to come out and clarify in the group. Ahem. Chungmu sent a message in the group, which instantly attracted a crowd of onlookers. Fuck. The boss is out. Awesome. Awesome. I said 9527 must not be dead. What dungeon did 9527 participate in? It took so long to come back. I saw that others seemed to come back in 1 or 2 days after participating in a dungeon. Yes, big brother. I came back the same day I participated in the dungeon. Why haven't you seen me for so long? Have you been lurking in the group? Brothers, I'm going to participate in the dungeon again. No one knows dungeons better than me. Damn. I heard from people in the group that the dungeons they participated in were so easy. By the way, it seems that Xyluka's cousin also signed up for the dungeon at that time. Go ask her. Chungmu turned and walked into her room, and had a long talk with his adopted son. Only then did I know that she had indeed gone to participate in the dungeon. And her dungeon was very simple. She only stayed in the dungeon for a few days, completed the task, and returned to the game world. Chungmu was silent, then turned and walked out of the room. Dog game. Targeting me. Right. Wait for me. Chungmu sat in the cab and continued to look at the various messages in the chat group. Boss, have you been lurking recently? I haven't seen you speak for a long time. Yes. I remember the last time 9527 spoke was the last time. 10 power cores for sale. If interested, please PM me. I want to build a house in the game. It's tiring to be homeless every day. Isn't it good to live in a car? The space in the car is too small. It's very inconvenient. Brother, where are you going to build your house? I'll attack you. I picked up a black supply box. Has anyone opened a black supply box before? Tell me what's inside. I've opened one before. There's nothing dangerous inside. Just drive it with confidence. A small pistol can solve the problem. Yes. I can testify that I am the gun. Ah. You are lying like this. It's really too much. It's obvious that at least an AK is needed to solve it. Brothers, do you have any cooking ingredients? I want to make something delicious. I'm tired of eating it every day. I have some. Private chat. I'm just planning to make it. Damn. I want to go home. I don't want to stay in this crappy place anymore. It's so lonely. Why don't you try to restart and see if you can go back to Blue Star? I think this is a good idea. I suggest you give it a try. When you go back, remember to send me a dream. You guys are really geniuses. Why didn't I think of this? Can any big brother give me some food? I haven't eaten for 57 days. After watching the chat group for a while, Chungmu closed the group chat. There was no quarrel. It was boring to watch. Originally, there were two groups of people arguing in the group. But since Chungmu appeared in the group, everyone started to discuss him. Alas, I don't want to be so high profile. But his strength does not allow him to be low profile. The day passed quickly. In the evening, the four of them sat together to finish their meal, and then set the automatic driving mode for the Mud King. The Mud King in the automatic driving mode will move forward on its own. So there is no need to worry about anything. Chungmu was a little bored with nothing to do. So he went to the chat group to see if he could buy props for entertainment. Does anyone have mahjong in hand? Buy a set. Fuck. Why did you buy this thing? Fortune telling? Can you play mahjong alone? Boss, I have one. I opened a set from a box before and gave it to you. It's useless anyway. Damn. You are still good at licking. Chungmu received the transaction reminder. Of course, he did not take other people's things in vain. He traded some daily supplies to him. After getting the mahjong, Chungmu called the three of them over. The four of them happily played mahjong. In the dark night, the huge Mud King was heading towards the depths of the deep sea. There were constant laughter and shouts from the Mud King's room, as well as the cries of Wankai and Shie. Chapter 294 David Jones. Chapter 294 David Jones. Chungmu played mahjong with the three of them until the middle of the night before they were ready to go to bed. In this cold game world, it is a rare enjoyment to relax occasionally. Moreover, Chungmu had not had much contact with Xiaoluka's cousin Su Qingma before, and mahjong, a form of entertainment suitable for all ages, just became a bridge for their communication. The next morning, which was the 58th day of the game, Chungmu, who had slept for a few hours, returned to reality from his dream. In his dream, he saw the strange clouds and the illusory figure again. Chungmu looked up to check the time, then covered himself with a quilt and went to sleep. He could clearly feel that the illusory figure could no longer do anything to him in his dream. So there was no need to worry now. As his strength increased, Chungmu was not too afraid of the illusory figure. The main task now was to find the third piece of Xuanwu heart. I wonder what the reward would be after collecting all of this stuff. I don't know if I can upgrade the system after completing this task. It was not until noon that Chungmu got up from the bed. When Chungmu got up, the three of them had already prepared dinner and were waiting for him. After playing mahjong for so long yesterday, Su Qingma and Chungmu obviously became much closer. This little girl was a little restrained when she saw Chungmu at the beginning, not as carefree as she was in the chat channel. But if they cultivate slowly, one day they will know each other well. The meals these 2 days were very rich. It was probably because Yunqi and Xiaoluka hadn't seen Chungmu for too long, and they poured all their thoughts into love. Although Chungmu tasted a lot of delicacies in the dungeon, no matter how good the ingredients were, they were not as good as the millet porridge made by the two of them. After eating, Chungmu got up and went to the deck. The sun was scorching, and it was a bit hot standing on the deck. But Chungmu didn't care about the temperature. He took out the heart of black tortoise from his body and stood at the bow to turn in all directions. When the direction turned to the right, Chungmu saw the light from the heart of the black tortoise light up. Although the light was not obvious, the difference was still visible compared to other directions. Chungmu returned to the cab, turned around, and drove in the direction he had just gone. He didn't know how long it would take to get to the destination. So Chungmu came to the deck again and stretched his body. After staying in the dungeon for 2 years, he was a little uncomfortable when he just returned to the game. He stretched out briefly, and then took out 2 high-level purple supply boxes from the storage box. If you really want to adapt, it is still the fastest through fighting. The monsters that came out of the 2 purple supply boxes were quickly solved by Changmu with his bare hands. He set his sights on the black supply box. With his current ability, it is more than enough to open the black supply box. And he has never opened a black box on the sea. One must always try. Changmu asked the 3 of them to be on guard in the cockpit, while he equipped himself with various weapons. Then took out a marine black supply box from the storage box, took it to the deck, and pressed the switch. A loud noise was heard, and then a huge wave suddenly appeared on the sea. However, this wave was nothing to the Mud King, which was dozens of meters long. Before he could react, several huge tentacles were attached to the iron sheet of the Mud King. However, Changmu only saw a few of its tentacles, and did not see what the body of this thing looked like. Its body should just be hidden under the bottom of the Mud King's boat. This thing should be a giant octopus or squid. And looking at this tentacle, it looks more like an octopus. Changmu knew that creatures of this kind on the blue planet could grow to be huge, not to mention in this alien world. When Changmu looked down from the railing on one side of the deck, a tentacle stretched out again from the sea that was a little turbulent due to the tentacle monster. This tentacle stretched out from the water, and then it slapped towards Changmu with a sound of breaking wind. This tentacle has eyes, so it knows my position so well? Looking at this tentacle, it can find its position so accurately. Changmu was a little speechless. The body of this thing is clearly on the bottom of the boat. How can it see me? Game. I want to report someone cheating. But even though he was speechless, Changmu did not ignore the attack of this tentacle. He easily dodged the slap of this tentacle by turning his body to the side. This tentacle almost brushed past Changmu, and Changmu could see the moss and various barnacles growing on it. Changmu was not careless, and in order to solve it quickly, he used the dragon blade to cut the tentacle directly. However, this thing seemed to have no sense of pain. After being cut off, it pulled out its tentacles and slapped Changmu again, which surprised Changmu. The reason for pulling out was that its tentacles were tightly attached to the deck of the Mud King. There was no blood or limbs flowing out on the smooth fracture surface. Only some sea water was dripping. The tentacle that was cut into half was still jumping on the deck. Changmu cut it randomly, and cut it into pieces, and threw the mincemeat into the sea to feed the fish. After removing this tentacle, another sound of breaking wind came from behind Changmu. After using the wind blade technique again to chop this tentacle into pieces, Changmu walked to the railing and found that there were still several thick tentacles on both sides tightly attached to the Mud King's ship. These tentacles were thicker than the 2 tentacles that attacked just now, but they were also much shorter than them. And the attack distance was obviously not as good as the 2 long ones. So these thick tentacles were just attached to the Mud King. And the tentacle monster, with 2 tentacles cut off, seemed to be furious. Changmu thought it would attack again. But what he didn't expect was that the giant octopus slowly retreated and chose to dive into the deep sea. Scared by the attack, Changmu cut off its tentacles. And it ran away? Changmu didn't take it lightly. The things in the black supply box would definitely not be dealt with so easily. It must have a trick up its sleeve. Sure enough, a moment later, in the sea area dozens of meters away from the Mud King, the sea water churned, and then a humanoid monster emerged from the sea. Changmu looked closely. And what the hell? Isn't this Davy Jones? The thing from Pirates of the Caribbean. He looked at the body of the octopus man, and indeed found several hands that he had just cut off. But now, the hands of this thing are healing quickly, and are about to grow out. Fuck. What should I do? As far as Changmu knows, this thing seems to be invincible. I need to find its heart to kill it. But Changmu obviously doesn't have this thing in his hand. Chapter 295 Regeneration Pills. Seeing David Jones, who should be unkillable, Changmu did not have too many emotional fluctuations in his heart. Whether he can be killed or not, we will know after trying. He took out the dragon blade in his hand, and planned to use a skill to test how deep this octopus man is. However, Changmu suddenly remembered that he still had the heart of the black tortoise on him. It was a bit inconvenient to fight with this thing. It was uncomfortable. He took out the heart of the black tortoise from his pocket, and prepared to throw it to Yunqi, asking her to put it in the storage box. But just as Changmu took the heart of black tortoise in his hand, he saw David Jones floating on the sea surface in the distance. He seemed to have seen something terrible, and dived into the seabed without looking back. Changmu? What is it doing? This script shouldn't be like this. Right? Why did it suddenly run away? No! There must be a backup plan. Maybe this octopus man is planning something big, such as creating a huge wave to overturn his boat. Changmu did not dare to take it lightly. He carefully scanned the surrounding sea area, and the three of them were also tense. After standing on the deck of the Mud King for more than 10 minutes, there was no movement on the calm sea. Changmu. Did he really run away? He took out the heart of Black Tortoise and looked at it again. Could it be because of this? Ever since he took out the heart of Black Tortoise, it was like seeing a ghost. But since he ran away, I guess I can't find him in this vast ocean. Let's continue sailing. Changmu walked to the black supply box that he had just opened. There was only a pill in it. Nothing else. He picked up the pill from the black supply box, and the information on the pill came into view. Regeneration pill. With powerful regeneration ability. Note 1. Pills with powerful regeneration ability can restore broken limbs and damaged internal organs. Note 2. Each person can only take it once, and the second time will be ineffective. Note 3. After taking the pill, the body will be restored to its best condition. Oh my god! The regeneration pill is so awesome. It's almost as good as his Chun Gujia. However, there is still a certain gap. His Spring Brother armor is a bound passive skill, as long as it is equipped. Even if you encounter a sudden attack, your head can grow again after being chopped off. But this regeneration pill must be taken out and eaten after the injury is healed in order to work. In this comparison, the difference is obvious. However, it can be regarded as a magical weapon that can bring back the dead. If this thing is sold in the chat channel, it will definitely sell for a sky-high price. After putting the pills they had just obtained into the storage box, Changmu and others continued to move in the direction of the glowing heart of the Black Tortoise, in order to prevent the octopus man from attacking. The four of them took turns on duty. As a result, they sailed on the sea for several hours, and did not see a shadow again. Really ran away? Changmu also relaxed after not seeing any traces for so long. After all, the Mud King that is dozens of meters long is not easy to bully. And Changmu has a variety of powerful weapons in his hands. As long as this octopus man dares to come, Changmu will definitely make him come and never return. After a simple meal in the evening, Changmu lit a cigar and opened the chat channel. It was almost as if I was a bird on the sea, and the endless sea would increase people's loneliness. This was the only way to relieve my mood. Brothers, you may not believe it. I picked up a huge egg on the road today. How big is it? How do you know we don't believe it? It looks like a fucking dinosaur egg. Didn't you hatch anything from it? No. I ate it. It tastes pretty good. 6. Awesome. What a tough guy. Alas, it's so boring in the game. The game doesn't even allow any online games to play. I built a computer, but unfortunately I can't play any online games. Only standalone. Isn't there a chat platform? Isn't it enough? It's enough. I want to die because I'm idle every day. Yeah. There's no shortage of supplies now. And the game map is so big. If you really want to hide, others may not be able to find you. It would be nice if the game had something like Oasis, where players can't attack each other. I'm tired of killing people. You're a real talent. You think the same as me. By the way, did a lot of people die in the last dungeon? I see a lot of people who participated in the dungeon before are no longer active. A lot of people died, but not that many. The difficulty of each dungeon is different. No more. Let's just get on with it. I'll keep you company. Can you play with me? I'm going to watch TV. Can any big brother give me something to eat? I haven't eaten for 58 days. After watching for a while, Changmu closed the chat, chatted with the three of them for a while, and then prepared to go to bed. There will be a lot of things to do during the day, so now I have to rest up. Changmu went to bed early and woke up early. He got up from bed at around 6 o'clock the next morning. The three of them were still asleep. Changmu walked out of the air-conditioned room and immediately felt a wave of heat when he got outside. The weather was still so hot, and the sunlight shone on the sea, showing waves of refraction. Changmu stood at the bow of the deck and took out the Xuanwu heart from his pocket. After another night of sailing, the light emitted by the Xuanwu heart was brighter than yesterday. But now it is still unknown how long it will take to find the last piece of Xuanwu heart. After looking at the endless sea again, Chang Mu regrouped and continued to move forward. After returning to the cab, Xiao He and Wang Kai had already climbed out of their nests. The cat and the dog jumped onto Chang Mu's legs and headed towards the rising sun. The days sailing past quickly. There was nothing much to say today, and there were no special situations. The whole journey was calm, and no monsters jumped out to get in the way. In the evening, Xiao Lucha used cooking utensils to cook some simple food, 4 dishes and 1 soup, with both meat and vegetables. The 4 people sat in the restaurant to eat, which seemed very warm. What he needs to consider now is when he can find the heart of the black tortoise, and the controller behind this game. Other than that, there is nothing to worry about. Chang Mu is not sure about dealing with the controller of the game. After all, he has never even seen him. The only thing he can rely on now is the system. He doesn't know what improvement he will get from finding the 3rd heart of the black tortoise this time. Nor does he know how much experience points he can provide to the system after completing the task. Chapter 296 Mysterious Pond. Finding the 3rd piece of Xuanwu heart is the top priority at the moment. According to Chang Mu's estimation, there should be some special rewards after collecting all 3 pieces of Xuanwu heart. After all, this thing is so special that even the introduction is a string of question marks. If there is no reward after collecting all 3 pieces, no one will believe it. It's just a matter of time to see how big the reward is. Chang Mu put away his thoughts and returned to the cab. It's time to go find Yunqi and Xiaoluca for some exercise. 2 hours later, Chang Mu came out of the room, lit a cigarette, looked at the starry sky, and went to bed. Tonight, Chang Mu had that strange dream again. The same clouds, the same illusory figure. But it didn't affect Chang Mu at all, as if it was just an ordinary dream. However, because of this dream, Chang Mu woke up very early. When he opened his eyes and looked at his watch, he found that it was only a little after 4 o'clock. But he was already awake, so there was no need to lie on the bed. And he might wake up Yunqi and Xiaoluca next to him. So Chang Mu moved a chair and sat at the bow. It was just dawn. He leaned back on the chair, looking at the deep sea in front of him. Chang Mu suddenly felt that there seemed to be something in the distance. He hurried to the cab and took out a telescope. Through the telescope, Chang Mu saw a small black dot on the sea in the distance. Because the distance was too far, Chang Mu couldn't see what the black dot was. To be on the safe side, Chang Mu turned back to the cab and took out various weapons and equipment. Now we don't know what the black spot is. We must be very careful. Chang Mu has always been cautious. In this game, if you are not careful, your life will be in jeopardy. Moreover, the 2 years in the dungeon did not make him lose his caution. Instead, he paid more attention to any disturbance around him. Chang Mu in the cab took out the heart of black tortoise. He saw that as he moved towards the direction of the black spot, the light emitted by the heart of black tortoise became brighter. That black spot seems to be related to the heart of black tortoise? Chang Mu felt a burning sensation in his heart. He originally thought that he would have to sail for a long time on this endless sea before he could find the whereabouts of the heart of black tortoise. But he didn't expect that there would be clues after such a long time. Chang Mu increased the speed of the Mud King and headed towards the black spot. It's hard to run a dead horse in front of a mountain, let alone in this vast ocean. Fortunately, the Mud King was driving very fast. After about an hour, the small black spot became much clearer when viewed through the telescope. It was a small island. It wasn't very big, but it looked quite mysterious. It took almost an hour for the Mud King to drive to the front of the island. Just now, when he was not far away, Chang Mu had already observed the whole picture of the island. The whole island was not very big, but the periphery was blocked by thick trees that were hundreds of meters high. So you couldn't see what was inside the island at all. It's not that this small island can provide nutrients for so many thick trees. However, these huge trees do add a lot of mystery to the island. Chang Mu sank the anchor to the bottom of the sea, parked the Mud King in the nearby sea, and then went to the room to wake up Yunqi, Xiaoluca, and Xiaoluca's cousin. Chang Mu was going to explore the island alone, and the 3 of them must stay on the boat to be on guard, which was also for their own safety. Chang Mu just took out the heart of black tortoise and took a look at it, and the light was shining. The last piece of the heart of black tortoise was probably hidden somewhere on this island. After explaining everything to the 3 of them, Chang Mu took all kinds of weapons and equipment and set foot on the island. Chang Mu passed through the outermost dense forest and entered the island. The forest was very dense, even if you had walked dozens of meters in. You could only see various trees and nothing else when you looked forward. The forest was a bit strange. Chungmu held the dragon blade in his left hand and pressed his right hand on the gun that had been loaded at his waist. As long as there was any slight movement, he could react immediately. After walking a few meters forward, a colorful little snake suddenly jumped out from the woods in front of him. The little snake shot out like an arrow from a bow. It was extremely fast. At the same time, it opened its mouth and sprayed 2 streams of transparent venom from behind its 2 slender fangs. Although its speed was extremely fast, it was still not fast enough for Chungmu, who had strengthened so many attribute points. Chungmu casually fired a gun, raised it and shot. The bullet accurately penetrated the little snake's head, and then it fell from the air to the ground, twisted twice, and died. Although the snake was dead, the venom from its mouth did not stop. Chungmu turned sideways and avoided the venom from the colorful little snake. The snake venom fell on the ground behind him, emitting a burst of white smoke, and the leaves were corroded with a sizzling sound. And the most amazing thing was that after the snake venom fell to the ground, it spread rapidly. At first, it only corroded the leaves in a small area, but within a few seconds, the corrosion range quickly spread. Seeing this, Chungmu quickly ran away from the area. While running, he carefully paid attention to the surrounding environment to prevent any accidents. Fortunately, the venom did not corrode a large area, and it stopped after a while. Chungmu also slowed down and walked slowly forward. The trees in the forest were too dense. In order to prevent getting lost, Chungmu used the most primitive method, which was to tie a rope on the road he walked. With the help of the rope, Chungmu did not take too many detours. However, the journey was not peaceful. Chungmu dealt with many sneak attacks on him before he walked out of the dense forest. After walking out of the forest, the front became much wider, and there were fewer huge trees. If you keep walking forward, the trees will disappear completely. Chungmu walked on the flat ground for nearly half an hour, and a small round pond appeared in front of him. This pond looked a bit like the immortal lake in the oasis at that time. The third Xuanwu heart. Could it be at the bottom of this lake? Chungmu couldn't help but think of the mysterious creature at the bottom of the lake. Even with his current strength, he didn't have enough confidence to face something that he hadn't seen at that time. And the number of those things was tens of thousands. Not just 1 or 2. Chungmu walked to the front of the pond and took out the 2 Xuanwu hearts he had obtained before. The Xuanwu hearts at this time burst out with extremely dazzling light, and even Chungmu had to raise his hand to block his sight. Otherwise, his eyes would be blinded. Chungmu had just taken out the 2 Xuanwu hearts from his body, and what surprised him was that the 2 Xuanwu hearts actually floated up by themselves, which had never happened before. Chapter 297 Immortality. The heart of the black tortoise actually floated up by itself, which was something Chungmu had never expected, and it shocked him greatly. What he had never expected was that, after the heart of the black tortoise left his palm, it floated directly to the center of the pool in front of him. Chungmu was just thinking of a way to retrieve the heart of the black tortoise. But looking at the current situation, the heart of the black tortoise didn't seem to fall. Then, as if it was affected by something, the heart of the black tortoise burst out with a more dazzling light. Then, the whole pool of water began to rotate, and a large vortex appeared in the center of the pool. As if anything close to it would be swept down, Chungmu hurriedly stepped back, not daring to get too close to the vortex. After all, what just happened was too magical, and Chungmu couldn't figure out what was going on for a while. As the vortex of the pool turned faster and faster, the whole sky darkened for a while. The sky, which was originally clear, suddenly became cloudy, and soon, big raindrops fell from the sky, splashing in the pool. It seems that something is floating up. Chungmu stared at the whirlpool in the middle of the pool, and a red stone slowly appeared in his eyes. This is the heart of the black tortoise. Looking at this familiar thing, Chungmu suddenly became excited. The appearance of the third black tortoise heart was indeed extraordinary. So handsome. After emerging from the water, the third black tortoise heart rushed directly to the 2 floating in the air. A flash of red light appeared, and more rain poured down from the sky. At present, all places in the Survivor game felt the heavy rain. Fortunately, the wind was not too strong. Otherwise, there would be a huge tsunami on the sea. Then, the 3 pieces of Xuanwu heart merged into one, and now it looked a bit like the shape of a heart. After the Xuanwu heart merged, the light disappeared, and then rushed towards Chungmu's chest. Chung Mu was shocked when he saw this scene. Although the Xuanwu heart has been with him for so long, it is still unknown whether the current situation is good or bad. So Chung Mu subconsciously dodged. But the next second, he found that he couldn't move at all, and he was stuck in the same place. The heart of the black tortoise rushed straight to his heart and sank directly into his body. After the heart of the black tortoise disappeared, Chung Mu found that he could move. He touched his chest and didn't feel anything unusual, so he was relieved. Then, the improvement from the system appeared in front of him. Completed the system task. Reward: complete heart of the black tortoise *1. System experience *100%. Oh my god! Directly rewarded with 100% system experience? Then his current system should be level 3. Before he could think about the system, another message appeared in front of him. System task completed. You have obtained a system lottery opportunity. Note: the lottery system will have any form of rewards. These rewards may also bring you danger. Please choose whether to participate in this lottery. If you choose no, this lottery opportunity will disappear. Chung Mu decisively chose yes. Then, win by lottery. Merge with the heart of Xuanwu. Note: after merging with the heart of Xuanwu, immortality. Immortality. The rewards given by these system tasks are so amazing. But this must also be related to the heart of Xuanwu that he found with great difficulty. Now he is immortal. And this is given to him by the system, not by the game. The system is bound to him, not by the game. The game may deprive him of his things, but the system will definitely not. At this point, Chung Mu was relieved. In this case, the game couldn't kill him. Right? He couldn't help but want to laugh up to the sky. But before he could get excited, he found that he seemed to be in sorrow after being too happy. The whirlpool in the pool in front of him did not stop after the Xuanwu heart rushed into his body, but became stronger and stronger. And the suction of the whirlpool in the pool became stronger than before. But this suction seemed to be directed only at Chung Mu himself, and other things around the pool did not seem to be affected at all. Chung Mu turned around and wanted to escape from here quickly. He had already obtained the third piece of Xuanwu heart, so why should he stay here? But what he didn't expect was that the suction force from behind him was very strong. He would be sucked back 2 steps after running 1 step. With the emergence of a strong force, Chung Mu felt his body lighten. When he looked back, he found that he had been sucked into the pool. All this happened in a flash, and even Chung Mu didn't react. After being sucked into the pool, he was choked by a large mouthful of water. But what surprised Chung Mu was that after choking on the water, he didn't feel any discomfort, and he felt like he was on land in the water, without any discomfort. This comfort made Chung Mu try to breathe in the water, and he found that he could breathe unimpeded in this pool of water. What the hell? Is this immortality? He originally thought that immortality meant that he would not die. If he encountered any attack, he would still be injured. For example, if he was dragged to the bottom of the pool today, he would continue to suffer the pain of drowning, and he would not be able to die. This is the most painful punishment in the world. But now, Chung Mu didn't feel anything at all. Breathing in the water was as natural to him as breathing on land. Even now, the huge whirlpool was still sucking him to the bottom of the lake, and he didn't know when it would end. But he was not worried. Anyway, there was nothing in the game that could hurt him, and this pool must have a bottom. At worst, I can just swim back when the time comes. During this time, Chung Mu sent a message to Xiaoluka and the others to let them know that he was safe, saying that he might stay on the island for a while longer, and asked them not to worry and to eat and drink. Chung Mu didn't know how long he had been sucked down by the huge whirlpool in the pool. He only knew that he sank very deep, and it was pitch black all around him. But in his opinion, he could see everything around him clearly. There were too many strange-looking fish under the pool, and many of them looked beyond Chung Mu's expectations. It is possible that no one can see it in the sea, so it just grows randomly. Anyway, there is no adverse effect. Unable to resist this mysterious force that sucked him down, Chung Mu simply closed his eyes and waited for himself to sink to the bottom. After an unknown amount of time, Chung Mu felt that he had fallen asleep, and suddenly he felt a touch of the ground under his feet. He thought that this time he should have reached the bottom. Chapter 298 Great Power. After Chung Mu felt the ground from his feet, he opened his eyes. What surprised him was that he had been to this place under the sea before, and it was an old friend. It was the huge underwater palace he had been to a long time ago. And this time, The palace was slightly different from before. There was one more person this time. Chungmu stood on the ground of the huge underwater palace and found that in front of him there was a man who was more than 3 meters tall, with 2 horns on his head, and looked quite mysterious. He was wearing a sea blue costume, and there seemed to be several small dragons wandering on the clothes. This was a powerful person. Chungmu made a judgment in his heart when he saw him for the first time. The man in the costume stood not far from him, looking at him with a mysterious smile. Chungmu looked at the man in the costume and felt that it was a bit awkward for the two of them to stand here without talking. So he asked, "Senior, who are you?" The man in the costume looked at Chungmu and waved his hand. Chungmu felt that his eyes were blurred. And then he found himself in a completely new place. He and the man in fancy clothes were no longer in the same place. Instead, they were sitting on a stone bench, with a huge stone table in front of them. Chungmu was shocked. What kind of terrible power could move me here instantly without me noticing? The man in fancy clothes sitting opposite him said, "I didn't expect that you have reached this point after such a short time." When Chungmu heard this, he immediately remembered that at the beginning, he was attacked by the mysterious creatures at the bottom of the immortal lake, and then a mysterious force rescued him. That mysterious power. Could it be the person in front of me? Looking at his aura, he really looks like him. "Senior, you saved me at the bottom of the lake. It was just a casual move. No need to say more. But I saw the shadow of an old friend in you." "Old friend? I don't know who the old friend you are talking about." The man in fancy clothes did not answer Chungmu directly, but asked him a question. "How did you come to this world? Tell me." Senior, I'm a novelist. Because I wrote too hard. I traveled through time while writing. So do you think this world is real or fake?" Chungmu originally thought that this world should be real. But after hearing what the man in front of him said, he suddenly became a little unconfident. "Is all of this fake?" "Senior, I think it should be real." "So do you think that the world you originally lived in, that is, Blue Star, is real or fake?" "Chungmu, I was just summoned here by you. You are discussing philosophy with me now. I really don't know." However, Chungmu still answered with a stiff upper lip, I think it should be true." "Then do you think there is any connection between these two worlds?" Chungmu was a little confused by the series of questions from the man in fancy clothes. He could only answer honestly, "Senior, I really don't know about this." Hee. "You don't understand. The world you were in before was real. And the world now is real, too. You are real. I am real. And no one is fake. Ha ha ha." As he said that, the man in fancy clothes in front of him suddenly laughed up to the sky, and laughed very wildly. Chungmu sat opposite him, with a frown on his face. Where is the demeanor of a master just now? Why did he suddenly become like a psychopath? As if he realized his own loss of composure. The man in fancy clothes laughed for a while, and then listened alone. "I'm sorry. I haven't seen a living person for a long time. I can't control myself for a moment." "It's okay. Senior, you can continue to laugh. I understand." Hee. "Do you know why I asked you those questions just now?" "I don't know." "Then do you know why I saved you at that time?" Senior just said that you saw the shadow of an old friend in me." "That's right. It was because of this that I saved you. Speaking of which, I was given life by that old friend. And I am here today." "No. Not only me. You were also created by him." Chungmu wanted to tell him that I was created by my parents. But after looking at the man in fancy clothes in front of him, he didn't say anything. Chungmu wanted to see what the man in fancy clothes would say. And the man in fancy clothes seemed to have guessed what Chungmu was thinking. He didn't pause and continued, "Of course. I didn't say that you were created by him directly, but indirectly. But there are too many twists and turns here, and I can't explain it to you clearly in a short time." "Okay. Senior, please continue. I'm listening. As I said just now, we were all created by my old friend. Not only you and me, but also everyone you have ever met. Every time and space you have ever experienced, whether it is Blue Star or here, are all created by him." Chungmu was stunned for a moment when he heard the words of the man in gorgeous clothes. Every world he experienced, every time and space, were all created by one person? No, this should not be considered a person, but a god. Is there really a creator? Chungmu was also skeptical about whether there was a creator in this world. After going through so many things, and listening to the man in gorgeous clothes in front of him, He suddenly felt that there was some truth. If everything he experienced, whether it was life on Blue Star or in the game, and the time he traveled to the dungeon, was real, then it couldn't be explained by science at all. The only thing that made sense was that everything was created by a powerful person. That's fine. Chungmu had always thought that what he had experienced was fake, which was even more terrifying. After thinking for a moment, Chungmu asked the man in gorgeous clothes in front of him again. Senior, do you know where this great man who created everything is now? He wanted to know who wanted to kill him in his dream. I can't remember this. I just remember the last time I saw him. It seems to be the last time. It should have been tens of thousands of years. Hearing this, Chungmu took a breath. Tens of thousands of years. What a terrifying number. The man in fancy clothes saw Chungmu's shocked expression, and he obviously felt satisfied with his success. Chungmu ignored the pretentious man, and a thought popped up in his mind. From this point of view, it shouldn't be the great man who created everything who wants him to die. If it was him, there would be no need to make such an effort. Who could it be? Chapter 299 Finale. Who could be trying to murder me? After Chungmu had this thought in his mind, he looked at the man in gorgeous clothes in front of him, and found that he had a 1-meter-tall and unfathomable smile on his face. Senior, I always felt that there was something trying to kill me in my dream. Do you know what it is? You finally asked the right person. How could there be something in this world that I don't know? Ha ha ha. As he spoke, the man in fancy clothes laughed loudly again. Chungmu's initial awe of the man in fancy clothes had disappeared, and he thought that this man had not seen a living person for a long time, and he seemed a little mentally abnormal. After laughing for a long time, a hint of resentment suddenly appeared in the eyes of the man in fancy clothes. Seeing this, Chungmu immediately became alert. Damn. The thing that wants me to die. Can it be this thing in front of me? Fortunately, the next sentence of the man in fancy clothes dispelled his thoughts. It is because of it that I have been trapped here for tens of thousands of years without seeing the sun. As he spoke, the man in front of Chungmu seemed unable to control his emotions and roared. With his roar, the entire seabed shook, and Chungmu was a little flustered by the roar. Fortunately, this huge underwater palace was still stable, and was not shaken down by his roar. After a while, the man in gorgeous clothes calmed down. Chungmu could understand it. After all, he had lived a lonely life without seeing the sun for tens of thousands of years. Today, he finally saw a living person. So he had to vent his anger. The man in fancy clothes straightened his expression, cleared his throat, and then continued to say to Chungmu, ahem. Sorry. I lost my composure just now. It's okay. It's okay. Please continue. The thing we just talked about is the thing that wants to kill you. And it is also the thing that imprisoned me here. According to my estimation, this should be an object left behind by the great power that created all things. Over time, after this thing gained consciousness, it ruled everything in this world. It gave itself a name, called Genesis. Genesis? Yes. I'm not sure why it's called this. How do you know this? Senior? Tens of thousands of years ago, I fought with it. But at that time, I didn't use my full strength because it had just been born with intelligence. So it took the opportunity to seal me here. Chungmu glanced at the man in front of him and almost couldn't hold back his laughter. Senior, I understand. Please continue. Don't call me Senior. You can call me Zulong. All the dragons in the world started with me. Okay. Senior. No problem. After I fought with Genesis, I was trapped here for tens of thousands of years. It was not until today that I met you again. Senior, I remember that you saved my life when I entered the Immortal Lake not long ago. And you also said at that time, how could I have his things on me? Who are you talking about? Yes. He is the ancient great power. I am so awesome? I still have things left by the great power that created everything? Could it be a system? Senior, what exactly are you talking about? This thing was also an item on him back then. You guys call it a system? Chungmu's heart skipped a beat. It was indeed a system. Senior, do you know where that great man is now? I'm afraid he has already ascended to heaven. Or in other words, everything in this world is him. Chungmu was unable to understand what Zulong said for a moment, and could only bow to him. Thank you for telling me. Senior, go. Where? I can't keep you here for long. There will be a battle between you and Genesis. Chungmu still thinks that I can't afford to offend it. But I can't hide from it. I am now immortal. What can Genesis do to me? Zulong smiled and put on a master's demeanor again. If you don't look for it, it will come back to find you. There can only be one master in the universe. Okay. By the way, there is one more thing. Senior. You say. After you defeat Genesis. Ahem. Don't forget to rescue me. I've been imprisoned here for tens of thousands of years, and I'm a little bored. Okay. Senior. Don't worry. As soon as the words fell, Chung Mu felt another huge force enveloping him and taking him up. Soon, Chung Mu appeared at the edge of the pool just now. Everything was like a dream. Raindrops hit Chung Mu's body. But he didn't care about the rain. Instead, he opened his attribute panel. He wanted to see how many attribute points he had now. It didn't matter that he took a look. Chung Mu discovered something. Where are my attribute points? Why is everything gone? No. But my state doesn't look like I have lost attribute points. Chung Mu's mind moved. And he found that he actually flew directly into the sky. The whole island, including the Mud King next to the island, was in his sight. What the hell? I actually already have this ability? What about returning to land? As soon as the thought came to his mind, Chung Mu returned to land again. I am beyond the scope of the survivor game? Chung Mu was overjoyed. He was worried that he might not be able to defeat Genesis with his immortality. But now, he seems to have no such worries. Chung Mu closed his eyes, and the entire world of the survivor game appeared in his sea of consciousness. Yun Qi, Xiao Lu Cha, and her cousin were waiting for him on the Mud King. Two people were about to meet, and seemed to be fighting. Everything was under Chung Mu's control. Chung Mu snapped his fingers. Time stopped. And the next second, everyone stopped. Even the air stopped flowing. And the dust stopped flying. Then, Chung Mu snapped his fingers again. And everything returned to normal. What kind of power is this? This is God. Chung Mu silently said in his heart. Return to Blue Star. Then, he found himself back to the familiar Blue Star. Chung Mu's heart was pounding. He pinched his arm, thinking that this must not be a dream. When the pain came, Chung Mu realized that everything was so real. He did not stay on the blue planet for long, but immediately thought and flashed to the vast universe. I have become a god. Why am I still staying on this small blue planet? There are countless worlds of all sizes in the entire universe, and Chung Mu can feel them. It turns out that there is life not only on the blue planet in the universe, and humans are not the only intelligent species. After Chung Mu traveled in the universe for a while, he suddenly remembered that he now has the power of the Creator. Should he unlock the seal of Zulong? So he had a flash of thought and returned to the world of the survivor game. He came to the pool again, unlocking the seal of Zulong. There was no response. So Chung Mu came to the bottom of the pool again and met his predecessor again. Mr. Zulong was now lying on the jade bed with his legs crossed. And there were two little female dragons beside him, feeding him various fruits. Seeing Chung Mu, he was very surprised. Why are you back again? I don't know. After I left here, I found that I was invincible. Then I tried to unlock your seal, but found no response. So I came back to check. Oh, didn't I tell you that my seal will be unlocked only after you defeat Genesis? Go find it quickly, and don't delay me. Where is Genesis? Zulong pointed upwards. It should be here soon. Maybe you can see it when you go up. After listening to Zulong's words, Chung Mu flashed back to the ground. It was not until then that he realized that the entire world of the survivor game had become pitch black. It was not the kind of darkness that lacked light, but a void of black. There was only a huge hole above his head, from which a beam of light shot out. Chung Mu did not think much and rushed directly towards the hole. After entering the hole, Chung Mu found himself in a new world. This world was exactly the cloud he had visited many times in his dreams before. Since he had seen it many times in his dreams before, when Chung Mu came here again, he was not surprised, but felt very familiar. Above the clouds, there was a figure. This time, the figure was no longer illusory, and everything around it had a substantial touch. Chung Mu stepped on the ground and felt soft, no longer numb as before. The figure not far from him must be Genesis. Right? He took a deep breath and walked towards the figure. When he got closer, he found that the figure was nothing else but a ball of light. When it got close enough, the ball of light suddenly turned into a human figure and walked towards Chung Mu. That old thing. Should I have told you everything? A voice that could not be distinguished between male and female suddenly appeared all around Chung Mu, and then poured into his ears. Chung Mu did not speak, but nodded. How about we keep our distance and share everything in the world from now on? Chung Mu decisively rejected the proposal without thinking. You know, when Chung Mu was weak, Genesis wanted to kill him more than once. If it weren't for his good fortune, he would have turned into ashes long ago. And now, after I have the strength to compete with Genesis, it wants to say this to me. What did I do before? Thinking about the time when Zulong rescued me. I owed Zulong a life anyway, and I have to repay this favor. Only by killing this thing can Zulong be free. Besides, why should I share this time and everything with you? I am the only one who can make decisions for eternity. Aren't you unhappy? Seeing Chung Mu shaking his head, Genesis did not fluctuate at all, as if everything was within its expectations. In that case, I have no choice but to kill you. Before Chung Mu could make any move, the human-shaped light ball exploded and punched Chung Mu in the chest. This punch seemed ordinary, but it seemed to contain great power. Even the space above the clouds was torn apart by the power of this punch. This punch was not fast, but Chung Mu found that he could not dodge it. An ordinary punch could actually lock him, forcing him to bear it. Chung Mu was unable to dodge, and took the punch head-on. Genesis's fist went straight through Chung Mu's chest, leaving a hole the size of a bowl on Chung Mu's left chest. If an ordinary person was hit by this move, he would definitely die. But Chung Mu was a tough guy who had just inherited the legacy of that powerful man. The wound just appeared, and before the blood was even seen, it healed immediately. Chung Mu glanced at his chest, and then at the light figure in front of him. Haha. You can't hurt me. But it can be said that this Genesis is really powerful. After becoming a god, Chung Mu no longer felt any discomfort. But the punch from Genesis just now still made him feel pain. But with just this little skill, he couldn't hurt himself. Chung Mu looked at Genesis and saw that he had no intention of stopping. He said to himself, "Okay, since you are like this, I won't be polite either." Then he rushed towards the figure of light. The fight between the man and the light was a back-and-forth fight. There were no fancy moves, just hand-to-hand combat. You give me a crotch kick, I give you a bone-crushing punch. If I used the words of an unknown red-haired monster in his later years to describe it. That is, the two supreme strongmen fought to the edge of the universe. Even the avenue was wiped out. One person and one light. Neither of them could do anything to the other. And it was not going to work if they continued to fight like this. And it was still Genesis who shouted first. "Stop!" Chung Mu stopped attacking, mainly because he had no way to deal with this thing. And now, he wanted to see what Genesis had to say. "I can't kill you. And you can't do anything to me either. I just said, as long as you don't provoke me, I will share everything in this world with you. How about that? Okay. I will create a world just for you. As long as you roll inside and never come out. I will agree. How about that? Humph. You ungrateful thing." Seeing that the negotiation was hopeless, Genesis rushed towards Chung Mu again. Chung Mu saw that this would not work. Even if he fought him till the end of time, he would not be able to tell who would win. Just when he was worrying about what to do, a message suddenly flashed through his mind, which was from the system. Chung Mu was delighted when he saw the message. Then, his aura and pressure rose steadily, and in a blink of an eye, he had transcended the billions of worlds. How? How is it possible? Genesis couldn't help but exclaim when he saw Chung Mu's state. This feeling, it has only been seen in the great power that created all things. Chung Mu's current body has been completely taken over by the system, and he only feels that he seems to have the power to transcend everything. In this situation, the main thing is to add a deep blue point. Chung Mu's mind moved, and a strange light circle appeared above Genesis' head. Genesis wanted to escape, but the light circle was like a person's shadow, and he couldn't get rid of it. In a moment, the light circle shrank rapidly, covering Genesis. In the blink of an eye, the light circle became a point and was exiled into the vast universe. At the same time, a long roar came from the bottom of the immortal lake. Ha ha ha! I finally see the light of day again. Chung Mu was standing in the clouds at this moment, and he felt a mysterious feeling lingering in his mind. In an instant, he seemed to have felt thousands of changes, from the beginning to the end of the universe. After a long sigh, Chung Mu opened his eyes. He looked at the world again, and finally chose to return to the Black Mud King. There were people waiting for him to go back for dinner,